This is Brightside Home Theater. Hey, home theater nerds. Welcome to the Brightside Home Theater Podcast. The home theater podcast, it's all about the experiences, the sights,
the sounds.
You gotta be a little bit more audible. That was...
I was trying to be smooth, man, like Jeff.
Yeah, but it was like the music was louder than you. I think you like
the sounds.
There you go. What's this, after hours, John?
Yeah. After dark.
Yeah, John after dark. The sounds. Oh, and the scenes.
Dulcet tones of John.
The dulcet tones of John Circone.
Yeah. I messed that all up, but they know what we're talking about.
Yeah, except for those new listeners, they're going, what the
if you're a first-time listener, I apologize.
Yeah. Oh, I apologize. I usually nail that.
Yeah, I'm usually much more energetic than that.
Not really. Oh, yeah, Jeff. I know. You were saying earlier, Jeff, definitely, he should be, I should just run that.
Well, he sounded like an AM rock
radio
jockey.
Yeah,
AM radio jock. You know?
Yeah. You know who used to be on the radio was Lee Overstreet. I could get him to do it too. Yeah, he can go right into like this radio voice, and like I don't even want to try to imitate it, but he's done it before. I've heard when I was talking to him, and it was like because like he's just so comfortable behind the microphone, you know, and he's just like, oh well, it's so funny. But yeah, he's really good at it. So how are things
I'm very
going?
comfortable. I'm just not as talented. You know?
You paid good money for that chair.
I have no level of discomfort. I'm just not very good.
You're just making everybody else uncomfortable.
Exactly. How's it? Everything's going all right, man.
Everything going good?
Yeah, can't complain.
Hey, I had a good time in the green room spending my money.
I did.
Yeah.
That was good.
What were you gonna say? Sorry.
Oh, I said a big family get together on Friday night.
Another
like 20,
birthday?
Like 20 people. No, a big Hocus Pocus 2 watch party.
What the? Yeah, Jen told me about that.
I wasn't involved in that at all,
No.
other than being here because I don't
didn't
like
even
the
know
movie.
that was a big thing.
But my wife and the kids watched that like every Halloween. It was a big deal for them. I had never even seen the movie until 2 months ago. My wife finally made me watch it. And so, but you know, she got everybody together. Everybody was here except for Nick. He's the only one that didn't make it. So we had like 20 people here parked on the floor watching the projector. It was actually pretty, you know, it was a good time.
Yeah.
My wife was actually like, turn it up, because I had it at like less than reference level. And I was like, I wanted to record that so that
all right,
I could play that back every time she yells at me for it being too loud. But yeah, so we did that. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, the kids made a giant Hocus Pocus like charcuterie board and like snack tray, which came out awesome.
I saw it. Yeah, Jen showed me the pictures.
It was really, really cool.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we did that. Ordered pizza and had the movie. So that was fun. You know.
Nice. Our restaurant uptown, not ours, but the one we go to, they had a whole Hocus Pocus night too. They had like a special Hocus Pocus drink or whatever. And I'm like, what the heck? I'm like, I guess
it's a thing because every group I saw on Facebook was people posting their watch parties for Hocus Pocus 2. I was like, okay.
I didn't know that was a thing. I'm like, there you go. Good for you.
Yeah.
Clearly I don't believe it's like our genre.
It's not fair. And I didn't care for the second one any more than I did the first one.
Right.
But, you know, kind of like me and the guys hung out more in the kitchen and just kind of talked and
kind of
ate pizza.
Disappeared, Hocus Pocused.
We were there to where we could still see what was going on, but not in the thick of the event.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Oh well. Yeah, that's cool. I didn't do? Oh, I had a huge weekend. My Saturday.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my,
I heard.
Yeah, I went over to Dan's.
Yeah.
And I brought stuff to record and like some to try it out. We never got to that. We just sat down and hung out and talked and 3 hours, just nonstop,
Nice.
just 3 hours. We went over, watched some scenes. What did we watch? He put on the Batman first. We watched that. And we watched the chase scene.
Right.
The Batmobile and, the ensuing chase. Watched that. That was really good. And then we watched, I was like, oh, we got to put on Star Wars. So we put on Star Wars because I wanted to hear his system with the opening scene. So we watched that for a little bit. And then another one, I was like, put on Daredevil. So we put on Disney Plus and put on Daredevil. And I went to the
Ben Affleck Daredevil?
No.
The show. Okay. So you went to the hallway scene?
Yeah, season 1. Not the hallway scene. The one in the taxi cab. It's like I think it's episode 5, if I remember right, and it's like 7 minutes in or something like that. But the guy in the back seat of the taxi cab is singing. And as the camera moves around, it pivots in the thing, but the sound of his voice stays where it should be. So the voice goes around your room, and then it goes.
Remember that. I'll have
to. Yeah, then it goes back around your room, and then Daredevil comes out. There's a fight, and that's really good. But that sound, it's like it's that voice going around your room. First, I think it goes counterclockwise, and then it goes back in the other direction. But even before that, the guys in the front of the cab are talking to him. If they pan back and look at him, now like you hear it out of the front left or right or whatever. It's really good.
Honestly, I've probably never heard that because I watched that show originally on my bedroom TV at my old house because I didn't even have a sound bar. I just watched it off my TV speakers. Yeah.
It came out in 2015, and that's why I love that scene because it's such. I remember thinking at the time, how many people are watching this in a theater? Most people are watching this on a laptop or on their phones or whatever because Netflix, this series, it was the first one for one.
Right.
And the fact that they had such great surround sound in that first, it was 5.1, but it was so well executed that it was such and I watched that every single morning. That's what I was telling Dan. I was like, every morning I got up, I had to drive Joe to school at the time because he was school choicing 2 towns away to play hockey. And I got up at 5 o'clock, watched that so that I could take him to school. Be like, but even when I hear that music, the opening theme to Daredevil, I was like, oh, I feel like it's morning.
Right. Yeah, see, I've gone back and watched the hallway scene a couple times since I've had my setup, but I've never rewatched the series. So yeah, I bet you it's got some good.
Oh, it does.
Good moments in it.
Oh yeah.
Because I remember watching season 2 and 3 here in this house, and season 3 especially was really good.
Yeah.
So
yeah, the hallway. I forgot about the hallway scene. That's I didn't forget about. That's the one everybody goes to because it's that one shot supposed to be type deal. Plus, you have the sound going off camera. Like when he goes into a room, it's like goes off. It's really nice.
It's really good.
Yeah, it is. But that taxi scene it's one of my. Anytime you pull up Netflix on my phone or anything, you'll see it's usually saved right there.
It's always paused, like continue watching.
yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, so I did that. I got to his house at around 10:30, 10:40 in the morning. And we talked, like I said, right up until like 1:40. I go, I got to get going because I had to get home. Right. And then I recorded with Reggie, which came out on Tuesday. And and I sat down. I got home. I'm like, hi, babe. Got to go downstairs.
Got to go.
And I went downstairs and hung out with Reggie and talked to Reggie for, 2 hours. And then I was like, it was like, by then it was like 5:30 or something, 5 o'clock. And I'm like, oh. Okay, now
let's go eat.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, what a day. Just nonstop home theater chatting. It was fantastic. So that was a lot of fun. Thanks, Dan. I had a blast. Oh, and I didn't tell. Oh, and I even have it here. I still have it. Dan.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
The glass
I saw
Coke.
that. He bought you
he had the glass Coke. When we sat down to watch,
awesome.
when we sat down to watch the Batman, he goes, here, I got Coke and a glass. I was like, oh, that's awesome. Oh, man. And the sounder just went off to open a can. Yeah.
Again, that's 2 weeks in a row.
2 weeks in a row. And it's like, and I can't time it because we've been recording for 34 minutes, but most of it's green room. Right. But yeah, it's but yeah, so I saved the cap. I put it in my pocket and it's sitting here in my studio. But yeah,
studio under the stairs.
Yeah, it was really cool. His girlfriend stopped in or came home and we were in the room, but the door was closed. And the way his dedicated theater is, it's like a room off the end of the house that they just basically said, this is going to be a theater. So it's like part of the house and it's like, okay. And he has this slider door that's really cool that you just slide it till it's closed. So his girlfriend comes home and she like knocks on the door and Dan slides it open and I'm standing off to the side of it. I don't know her. I've just met Dan in person for the first time.
You don't even know him, really.
But John, you know me, a little sarcastic. Yeah. She goes, what's going on in there? And I out loud, I go, what? Two guys hanging out in the dark's not cool? I was like, uh-oh. She goes,
I would have started buttoning up my pants.
She goes, you're standing apart. I go, well, we are now.
Yeah, that's because you knocked.
Just because thanks for the warning.
Yeah.
Oh man, it was so funny. Then right after I said it in my head, I'm going, wait a minute, maybe I should get to know these people first.
Right. I don't know her.
I don't know.
She might not have a sense of humor.
Yeah, by my track record, I'm probably not going to get to know her.
Right.
Who was that guy? He's rude. I don't like him in there taking advantage of you. Oh, no, great time. Great time. And awesome. After that description, I'm not getting invited anywhere else.
Right.
All right. You ready to get to our promos? Promo pages? All right.
Always.
Favorite part of the show.
It is.
All right. Here we go. Oh, you know what we didn't do? Forget the promos. John.
What didn't we do?
It's time. It's time for to talk to the future.
Oh yeah.
What'd you think of that last week?
Because that worked out really well. No, it was fine. It was fine. I love Steve's thing on Twitter.
What did he say?
Asking for the lottery numbers.
For the lottery numbers, yeah. Like 7.
Yeah, that was
7. I can't give them all to you. That's cheating.
Right. Just give you 1.
Oh, all right. All right, here we go. Why don't you ask this week, John?
Oh, I don't. What am I asking? I don't have the script, so I don't know what I'm asking.
All right, so just go through the show, John. What's the first thing that we talk about when we start talking? Our tweaks.
The tweaks.
So why don't you go ahead and ask?
Hey, DJ, what time are tweaks coming up? 23
minutes and 48 seconds. There you go. Is that good?
I guess.
Yeah. All right. And after that, what do? We talk to listener experiences. Go ahead, John. Come on, John.
Hey, DJ, what time are listener experiences?
39 minutes, 37 seconds. Yep. Okie dokie. And then we talk to Steve. I'll do this one. Or do you? No, you do it. Why don't you ask? You look like you had something prepared.
I didn't, but hey, DJ, what time are we flying across the pond to talk to Steve?
1 hour, 12 minutes, 33 seconds. There we go. That's the time. All right. And and we have some 4K.
I know this one.
Oh,
hey, DJ, what time are we talking about 4K new releases?
2 hours, 21 minutes, 40 seconds. Wow. You're on the ball. So what's after that?
Hey, DJ, What time are we talking about our home theater experiences?
2 hours, 27 minutes, 30 seconds. Look at you.
I know.
All right. And our main topic for today. Come on, John. You remember.
Hey, DJ. And what time are we talking about Deadpool?
3 hours, 5 minutes, 36 seconds. Yes, we are. All right. All righty. That's it.
That is it.
That is it. Okay, maybe that's the last week we do that. Yeah. Oh, I got too much time on my hands.
You too.
All right. Now are you ready to get to promos?
Yeah, no, because now I got to remember. What did I say first? Promos.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. Let's get to promos for this week. All right. If you're watching us on YouTube after that, thank you. If you're still watching us, hit the like button, even in spite of that little, those little shenanigans. Hit the like button, mash the like button, hit subscribe,
mash that like
all
button.
That fun stuff. You can follow us along on Twitter at BrightSideHT. You can email us at brightsidehometheater@gmail.com. That's the best way to get to end up on the show. If you'd like to be on the show and participate in a Takeover Tuesday, just send me an email and we'll get you on the schedule. And also, all the links for all the other shows and stuff like that, you can go to brightsidehometheater.com. Take a look at that. There's some great home theaters there that I featured, a couple of years ago now. And a new feature there that we'll talk about in a minute. But for right now, let's go to John's favorite.
That would be patreon.com/the Brightside Home Theater.
And links and links for that are in the show notes as always, and also on the website, and the new feature over there at on the website. All you got to do is go to the homepage of the website, and there you can buy us a box of popcorn.
Yeah, I saw that. That's awesome.
Yeah. So this week, we'll get to that in a minute, but Ara worked with me last week, did a great job. I never would have figured all of this out. He knew how to get the right, I gave him the picture and he said, okay, we got to do this, this, and this. Worked with me for like 2 hours on this. And we got the website down, and then I took it from there and I, just centered it and I modified it for both desktop and mobile on your phone. So you just go to the website, it's right on the home page, and you can buy a small box of popcorn for $5, goes right to my PayPal. And then that will be part of the show. Half of all of those proceeds go to our donations. That gets included with all the Patreon money. I'm going to be logging all of that in as well. So $5 for a small box, $10 for a medium box, and then the large boxes you can pick whatever amount you want. And there's an icon for each of that. And then, of course, the Patreon icon is there as well. So you could just go right to the homepage, brightsidehometheater.com. And that's how you could support the show and whatever, charity we're going to be donating to that month. I made our donation to the American Heart Association. So that went out just the other day. And this month, we're going to be doing, because it's breast cancer awareness, we're going to do breastcancer.org. I found this one, sent it to my wife and said, what do you think of this one? And she said, it's great because it's not for this, but it's not for cancer research. This is another one of those charities that helps in the support of the people with breast cancer, the families that are affected by it. And I said, when she first told me, I go, is this one okay? She goes, yes, this is another support one, like the first one that we did. And I go, oh, is there something better that we should do? And she's like, no. She's like, I actually like these ones because it's not that we shouldn't be giving to breast cancer research, but these type of things also need the support too. So this is the one we're going to be doing this month. And of course, as always, you can just go right to breastcancer.org, and there are links right there for you to donate right in the top right corner. It's not as dedicated to donations.
In your face is the heart. Yeah. It's the
but
American Heart Association.
It's the big red button at the top right corner of the screen for breastcancer.org, and you can hit donate. So you can do that, or you can donate to us, and we'll give half to breastcancer.org for this month. So we'll be talking about that the rest of the month. And also, if you're looking on YouTube, you'll notice we are also having the little breast cancer awareness ribbon on our page this month on the screen. So I think I put it into almost every screen that we have for every section of the show. So that'll be there. So for the month of October, we'll be doing breast cancer awareness this month. So let's kick off the month. We did good.
Now, if you were really good, those little logos on every page would link directly to breastcancer.org.
Ara doesn't have that kind of time.
Okay. Just saying.
Yeah. And then your name under you would link right to your bank account, and the name under me would link.
Yeah.
I know how you're thinking. You're like, if he can do the ribbon thing, he can do anything.
If we can get those links going, then we're set.
So yeah. Nice job. So so why don't we you got your Patron notes there. We had no new patrons this month.
Right.
Or this week. I'm sorry. No new patrons this week, and no updated other than we had the one update where he went back.
Right.
It's funny. And Paul. That's what it was. Paul went back to his normal, which is great. Thank you very much, Paul, for everything. But for somehow we went down a patron. We went from 26 to 25, but nobody's missing. That's weird. Odd. Yeah, it is weird because if you go on your Patreon account, you could see new, declined, canceled patrons. Every time somebody cancels, you'd be able to see it, and then you can send them a message like, "Hey, what was it?"
Right.
Something we did, blah blah blah. I usually just leave it alone, but yeah. So some reason we went to 25. I don't know. It's probably a glitch in the matrix.
Yeah.
But so yeah, let us know. What do we got there, John?
All right. So our patron of the week is Matt Nelson. Has been a patron for 12 months. So thank you, Matt, for all your support.
Yep. Thank you, Matt. I believe he just became a part of the green room as well.
Awesome.
I think I just signed him up for the green room as well. And what's our? I don't even have.
So we're at 25 total patrons for the month. Estimated earnings $141.
Nice. So you can get that number up. I honestly, I am looking forward to getting over that 200, so that we could start giving more than 100.
Right.
It's like I'm looking forward to that number, even if it's $101, and then you eat 102, 103.
Right.
And watch that grow over the years as we do this. It'll be really cool, and be like, and we'll be sitting here going, "Remember when, John? It was just 100."
Yeah.
10 years
back
from
in
now,
the good old days.
Yeah, and now it's at 110.
Yeah.
All right. You ready to get to tweaks for the week?
I am.
Your new you came up with it.
Tweak of the week. Yeah.
Tweak of the week.
And so I didn't have any this week, but I know you do. So
yeah.
Yep. I'll let you go ahead and talk about yours. Yeah.
So my tweak for the week, it was a pretty big deal. It's something I've been putting off for a while. And it had to do with the Lumagen, because Lumagen's pretty complicated, and I had it installed and it was running really well for me. And I just wanted to make sure, I didn't want to mess with it, but I've had it for a year now. Time to start messing.
Right.
And so the Lumagen that I bought is the Radiance Pro 4242, and it means it has 4 inputs and 2 outputs. And your outputs are assignable, and you can have one for video only and one for audio only, or one for video and audio, and my other one is audio. So I set it up so that basically what I did is I turned the Marantz just into the audio processing, and the Lumagen is doing everything right now, is doing all my video switching. So all of my inputs. So I have 4 inputs on the back of the Lumagen, and input 1 is the Kaleidescape. Input 2 I put as my Apple TV. Input 3 is my Panasonic, and input 4 for right now is just the PS4. Okay.
Right.
And then I ran from the video out, I ran that right into the media player input on the Marantz.
Okay.
Renamed it Lumagen so that you knew on the front of your on the front of the receiver, you'd see
it says Lumagen.
It'd say Lumagen. But
so for those in the closet,
right, for anybody in that closet,
that's a mad flex for anybody that's in the closet while you're watching TV or movies.
Why am I in here? They're out there watching a Lumagen. So I had that. Well, it's funny. I'll tell you after. But so I did that and then ran directly from the Lumagen to my projector. Now, you might ask, why would you do all this, DJ? Go ahead, John.
Why would you do all this, DJ? Which actually, I want to know why you would do all that.
Well, what happens is the Lumagen's way more powerful than your receiver is, and if you run everything into there, it did work, and it's really nice. So your handshake times, all of this stuff is quicker because the Lumagen's doing the work, and it knows when it's sending it out. So what I used to have is like I'd switch between like Apple TV and I'd go to Kaleidescape. Right. And it would be like, okay, you have to switch. But the handshake, it was trying to handshake with the receiver, which was just getting this solid signal. And it was like, all right, that's not the right one. And it would be like, and your screen would do a little flickering. Now it does like half the amount. It just goes right to it. The other benefit to it is I have one single input for everything for all my audio sounds, right? So remember all those issues that we've been talking about, like when you flip from one input to another input, it goes from movie to game mode to all, none of that anymore.
Now it's just the Lumagen.
It's just on that one input and it's not changing. And everything, everything is fine. If you look down and you'll be like, nope, it's all there. It makes everything.
I gotta buy one of those.
And it really is. It's nice. And it's like, and then I'm starting to look into more settings on the Lumagen that I can actually go and fine tune for each input.
I was going to say, so now you have a different setup for.
I can actually fine tune it to the Apple TV versus the Kaleidescape versus the Panasonic and whatever. But
which you couldn't do before, right?
Right. You can't do that because I was running everything into the Marantz, coming out of the Marantz, going into input 1 on the Lumagen, and then out to the projector. Signal. So it was just all one. This way I'm doing it in the other direction. And I'm actually toying with the idea of either A, putting the PS4 back into the Marantz along with the Zapiti and running out of the Marantz into the Lumagen into the 4th input. That's the way you can get more than 4. You know what I'm? Now you just put those 2 on there and run that into the Lumagen and it'll work fine. Or selling my Lumagen and getting the one with 6 inputs.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, do you know what the Lumagens cost?
I do, but I don't know what a used for input Lumagen cost. So, no, I know. So they're pricey.
Yeah. But it's funny because I'm in the middle of doing all of this, and a Twitter conversation sparked up about like Mad VR. Mad VR. Todd and I talked about Mad VR the other day.
Yeah,
but Mad VR,
Cedia.
It was crazy at Cedia, right? And just tons and tons. It looks like they're on like this just a mad press tour.
Right.
They're going crazy for it. And they're great. Don't get me wrong. And it's funny, I replied to Todd's tweet about Mad VR is everywhere, blah, blah, and we started talking about it. And I'm like, Mad VR, I said projector owners, especially Mad VR is worth exploring, blah, blah, blah. And then Daddy077, at Daddy077, one of our followers over there, is like, what about Lumagen? And I was like, I didn't want to say anything because I'm like, I think Todd's doing some, he's doing some press or whatever for Mad VR. And I didn't want
right.
But I was like, what about the Lumagen? Has that been around much longer? And it has. Lumagen's been around longer. But as far as tone mapping goes, in my opinion, they're one for one. They're maybe the Mad VR is a little bit. I don't know how you could get too much better. I mean, because Lumagen's constantly updating anyways. Because I haven't updated mine. I was talking with Nelson the other day, and he was saying that I should update mine because it's even better. But I guess it's. Anyways, so Mad VRs, they've got some powerful things going on with aspect ratios and with all stuff that I probably wouldn't use, but it's also super user-friendly. Lumagen's known as, once it's supposed to be a set it and forget it, or have somebody set it and you forget it, and it's insane.
Mad VRs. But Mad VR's a little more expensive, too.
It's like 3 times the price.
Yeah. Okay, so it's more than a little more.
Yeah, it is. They're like $16,000.
Yeah.
And it's...
supposed to be a lot more user-friendly, like
it's a lot more user-friendly, but here's where I thought it was interesting, and I try not to say too much of this online because I don't want to bring down Mad VR. I love it. If I could afford a Mad VR, Carl just bought one. He got it on sale or something. I don't know where he got one, but he got one, and good for him. But the thing is all of the fun stuff about Mad VR, you'd probably be done with in about a month.
Well, right, and honestly, I wouldn't mess with it anyways.
Right.
I would also have somebody professionally install it and calibrate it, and I would never touch it.
Right.
So all those user-friendly benefits, I'm not quite the tweaker you are, when it comes to that stuff. Like, I want to get it set. I want it to be calibrated right, and I don't ever want to think about it again.
There's a funny feature. There's a funny feature on the Mad VR that there's a button on the remote. I forget what it's called, but it's basically your demo button, so you can show people the difference, right? So you'll go from here it is, here's with the Mad VR on, and here it is with it off, and it'll still push through. Like the Lumagen, if I shut it off, it's just flat out off. So what you have to do, you get nothing, right? But
especially now that all your inputs are running through.
Right. No, but even before, if you wanted to, but here's the thing. And this is what a lot of people don't realize until you have one in your system and understand how they're working. That button doesn't really work. It's not really giving you a good demonstration. Now, I'm going to tell you this knowing that I love these things. I highly recommend these things. And, like Ferris Bueller, if you have the means, I highly, recommend you pick one of these up. Right? So, but I'm going to tell you, when they do a demo for you to impress the hell out of you, usually that demo is 100% wrong. Because if you came to my house and I showed you, here's my projector with the Lumagen. Here's my projector without the Lumagen. Well, guess what? When I show you it without the Lumagen, my projector's in dumb mode. It's not running at HDR. It's not calibrated to be running without a Lumagen. So when you do that, that image is going to look worse than if I showed you my fully calibrated projector versus an uncalibrated non-HDR projector. So you know what I mean? So it's like, I think I don't know. There is another way to do it. You'd have to calibrate your picture and get it perfect and have it on a completely different input, change that input, and then you'd be able to go back and forth. But if you're doing that, you don't need a button on your video processor because you've gone to a different input in your projector, right? And that to me that's one of those things I noticed on the Mad VR. And that was like I don't know, a year ago when I saw the Mad VRs, when I was looking at the Lumigens, I'm like, that doesn't make sense. But I had people warn me of that when I was looking into video processors, and I didn't really understand what they meant. And I'm like, no, look at the difference. But then when you get it in your system and you understand when you're watching it be installed and you're like, oh, right. I got to you literally shut HDR off on your projector and you just put it in bright mode and the Lumigen does the work.
Right.
So an A/B switch doesn't work.
Right.
Well, it does work. It gives you a really good contrast.
Yeah, it just gives you a really bad picture.
Right. Exactly. The Mad VR is insane. It's super powerful. It does a lot of great stuff. But like I said, most of which I wouldn't use. Lumigen does a lot of the same stuff. They showed the aspect ratio. I've seen the videos where, like for Top Gun Maverick, the Mad VR will literally, in real time, while you're watching the movie, flip the movie back and forth through the aspect ratios, which is really cool. That's awesome. I would never use that. I don't like that idea. I don't like stretching the image. I don't like manipulating the image, but what I've done this week in my tweak is actually supposedly is like, I was talking to Nelson about it because he has a Lumigen as well. And I was like, what do you think of this? And I'm like, I'm doing this. And I was like, now I've heard that you can improve your audio this way, or is that just like Lumigen propaganda? And he started cracking up and he goes, you just answered your question. I was like, I know. But there's like, when you watch the YouTube videos, it's
that placebo effect. Like you asked me if adding the amp made my picture look better. You know what I mean?
That's the placebo. Yes. But I asked you that because it does happen. And you do feel like it because your sense, like, and I've seen it in action. Jen said the same thing. I've told that story many times, but it's like, you're like, oh my God, that's when you know it's a good improvement. But yeah, for me, I don't think that this improved the image quality at all. This tweak this week.
Just the switching.
It's just the switching. It's so much smoother. Everything is just so much nicer and dead on.
And actually, I really like that audio. I like the idea about the audio not switching every time either. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, it streamlines your system. It really does. And it just makes everything way more user friendly for everybody. So now if somebody comes in the room, they have a better shot of it. Now, I've only had it this way for a few days, and maybe there'll be something there. But even if there is, if something pops back, goes to movie mode or something, it's still just one input. So you have far less chances of things happening because you're only on that one input. I haven't popped out a reference, Odyssey reference level. You know what I'm saying when I'm talking about the Odyssey EQ. That hasn't shut off yet. Nothing. Everything's just been rock solid ever since.
That's cool.
And I literally, the day before, my reference was off. 2 days in a row, the Odyssey had shut off. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? I had no idea. I have no idea.
I really think it has something to do with the input switching because I noticed that happens every time I do that. Something gets turned on or off. I don't know how or why that happens, but I am so freakish about it now. Even every time I go to a new TV show, I pull up my app and I check and make sure everything's still the same.
Oh, I know. Yeah,
I spend more time on that than I do watching the show.
I changed the channels. I changed the channel on my Apple TV. I want to make sure everything else is right.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
it's probably a little overkill, but
that's part of the fun, though. I'm still having fun with it. I forgot. I meant to ask you, but we were laughing. When you were watching Hocus Pocus, how close to reference level did you get?
Full reference.
Oh, you got there.
Yeah, it was at full reference.
Oh, nice.
Again, it's streaming Disney Plus, so it's a little lower anyways. But yeah, we were at might have even bumped it 1 or 2. But again, screaming kids and a lot of people talking, and so
right.
I mean, it had to kind of go over all of that.
Yeah.
So
cool.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. You ready to get to listener experiences?
Yes.
All righty. All right. Let me pull these up here. Oh, Wow. All right. First up, this is Jonathan. He's got the C-Den Cinema. C-Den as in he's a Seattle Seahawks fan.
Yeah.
Says, hey, DJ, we know that home theater is a very niche hobby, and those of us obsessed with it cannot understand why others aren't. It drives me crazy to go to someone's house with a 42-inch TV in a huge living room, brightness all the way up, and sound coming out of the TV speakers. Or even worse, a TV mounted above a fireplace and you have to look up to see it. In reality, how many people really care about the home theater experience? Let's break it down this way. 1, U.S. households. 2, minimum 65-inch TV or projector. 3, a 5-1 system with speakers placed properly, not all in the ceiling, for example. To me, that is the absolute minimum that could be considered a home theater. So how many U.S. households have this? 1 in 100, 1 in 500, 1 in 1,000, or 1 in 5,000?
Less than 1%.
Yeah, well, he said, I have no idea, but I think it's probably about 1 in 500 if I had to guess. So it's about 0.2%. Yeah. What do you think? All right, before we get to those questions, first off, I would like to say I don't get aggravated when I go into other people's houses because, you know what I mean? It's like not everybody loves what we love, and that's fine. And I don't get it.
Some people even watch on their iPad.
Yeah.
So
or iPhones but poor Steve. No, but at the same time, you know what I could say to that is that's somebody that just loves movies, right? They just love the content of the movie. It's not necessarily the home theater experience they're looking for.
Right.
I have no problem with watching on an iPad or an iPhone. I've done it on planes and stuff.
Oh, me too.
But to critique a home theater experience from your iPhone, that's crazy, right?
Right.
And where Steve and I got where the joke came from was Lucy, that's not really a story movie. That's meant for a home theater, right? And it's like, it's got an interesting story, but at the same time, it's like that needs to be in a theater, right?
Right.
So what I think the frustration that Jonathan's pointing out here with people with these, just like a regular TV and speakers is if they push back on home theater, if they say, you don't need that, or, this is just as good. That's when you go, really? No.
Yeah.
Okay. So actually, how many people actually care about the home theater experience? He said, he gives you a description here, 65-inch or larger, 5.1 or more. And he says, to me, that's the absolute minimum that could be considered a home theater. I don't believe that either. And I've said it on the podcast in the past. I said, all you need to have a home theater is, first and foremost, the passion for home theater. If you have a sound bar and a television, you have a home theater, if that's what you want and you're aspiring to more. The most important part, and I said it when I was on with the SVS Happy Hour, and they said, what's the most important part? And I replied to Jonathan, I go, it's not the theater, it's the man in the box, right? And that's the most important, the person sitting there, because you and I, John, especially, we came from the 80s, from crap, from Frankenstein systems to just wanting to what, oh my God, look at what, we didn't even know what we have today could even be invented, right? And there are kids and people out there that don't know the capabilities that are possible right now, but they want it and they have an idea in their head and someday they're going to get there. That's a home theater, whether it's a sound bar or even just a TV with speakers. And you want, when I did Rich Keefe's, he just wanted his man cave to have a home theater. He didn't have it. All he had was a 65-inch TV. That's it. But he called it his home theater, but he had nothing else. Then he upgraded it. So that's what I would consider a home theater. Now, to get to the real question, how many people are there that really care, that want a home theater? I bet you it's less than, if it's 1 in 500 is 0.2%.
Yeah. I think it's less than that, probably.
It might be. It might be. The thing,
because there's so many people. I mean, there's,
well, just in this country alone, like U.S. households is 330 million people. So how many houses are there? But yeah, but how many out of how many people in the country? You see all of these, like, like we just had Cedia last week, and it's like they're selling projectors, they're selling receivers, they're selling this stuff. I think it actually might be higher than that, believe it or not.
Me, you think?
Yeah. I think the 1 in 100 might actually 1 in 100, maybe. I don't know. Of households,
maybe I could go with the 1 in 500. Maybe I think 1 in 100 is very generous. I don't think there's that many. Yeah.
I don't know, but it's an interesting question. But yeah,
sure.
Yep. And hey, I don't care how many other people like it, as long as they're either listening to me, or I have mine. I enjoy mine. We've liked it.
Well,
before
you need enough people to like it so they can keep manufacturing product.
Correct. Right. Exactly.
I do care how many people like it, at least that minimum number.
Yeah. So, all right, we got another post, Patreon post from Andrea Minoya. Is that how you said it? Minoya? I just listened while cycling the announcement of the green room. It's a nice idea. The time someone said to you that streaming is better than disc, well, we all know that it's not the case. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here talking about AV stuff, right? I just wanted to say one thing that I completely agree with your view, with a nice big OLED and decent, and here I'm suffering just to say the word decent next to it, soundbar. Like one of those more serious 9.1.4 systems, you do feel the difference between streaming and disc, especially audio-wise. The difference is pretty neat. Like someone on here said, sound is pretty flat on streaming platforms and so good on the disc that you can feel it even without the trained eye or ear. Discs are always worth it for me if you have a bigger than 65-inch OLED and a sound system with at least a sub and a couple of rear channels. But then, the step between one of those and a good AV setup, it's day and night, of course. Otherwise, we wouldn't spend that much money on it, right? P.S. You are the first person ever outside of Italy to read my name correctly first try.
Awesome.
So, this is getting to the whole conversation that we've had with people about, like, they think streaming is just as good, and it's like, it probably is to the majority of the people, because they just don't have a system to pull out everything, to pull out the benefits that you get from a disc. Brandon on the Kaleidescape Terror Experience on YouTube. The reason files are larger on Kaleidescape is because everything is in one package. If you look at 16.9 or 16.19, you'll see the movie comes with 3 discs, which add up to what you're getting on the Kaleidescape. All that extra data is alternative languages, subtitles, and extras. Kind of misleading. And so I think 1619 was the timestamp from that video, but I replied to him, and I wanted to bring it up again here on the podcast. I said, and Brandon was great. We went back and forth a few times on YouTube, and I opened with, which is really tough. I hate to say stuff like this in writing, but I'm like, that's inaccurate, because so what it is like the Kaleidescape, when you get a 4K movie on a Kaleidescape, you just get the movie. There very rarely are there extras. There have been a few. I've found a couple, but typically whatever you get on the Kaleidescape 4K disc, 4K download is exactly what they're releasing on the 4K disc. And when you buy your 4K discs, you get a disc with just the movie on it. All your extras are on the Blu-ray version because there's more space there, right? So that's where it's not misleading. And then the other one that he says, all that extra data is alternative languages, subtitles, and extras. Kind of misleading. And I'm like, but the 4K disc has all that extra data and everything too.
Right.
There's not, and he is familiar with Make MKV, so he's been downloading movies, so he's seen the size of files and stuff, which I have as well doing the Zapiti. But the Kaleidescape, it's literally, the 70, 80 gigabyte downloads. And in a case of like Disney, they're only at 66. So,
right.
But yeah, we've been over it many times. You and I you had that question.
Well, that was
the
first question I asked you, because when you started telling me about the file sizes, that was the first thing I asked you, was if it included any of the extras and all that stuff. And
right. And it's basically a 1-for-1. Right. I think the one that we did find, I think Endgame, actually, if I remember right, I think you and I found that way. It actually had a couple of extras on the 4K, but then we were trying to add it up and like how much.
Yeah, it still was way less than.
Oh yeah, because it's like, what are the extras? It was only a few like megabytes or whatever compared to what the 4K movie was, and that's at 103 gigabytes. Right. And maybe it took 5 gigabytes for extras, and you're still at like 98. So it's still
30 megabyte difference.
Right. It's still a big, and that's a big difference. Is Return of the King still a disc, or is Return of the King still a disc to rule all discs? Mike Schramm. And all right, I've whittled these things down. If you compliment us, we like it. We're usually going to leave those for the YouTubes and stuff, but if you're colorful and creative like this, part 1, I'll give 4 boxes of crumpets, Wakanda forever. So that was great, because he's giving out boxes of crumpets, which I give boxes of popcorn. So he's pulling Steve in, and then Wakanda forever, he's shouting out, because that's our little, yep. I wasn't going to say it. That's code.
Sorry, Disney.
That's code. Only
Don't
to
sue
be
me.
used in a certain place. So you do fun stuff like that, you'll make the show.
Right.
And here's another one. Darth Choke 88. 5-hour end product podcast. Congrats. I'll watch it in one sitting. Beast mode.
Wow.
I know.
Better man than me. I was on it, and I won't watch it in one sitting.
I was on all 5 hours.
Yeah, I know you were. I'm only on about 2 of them.
I got to tell you, I was tired at the end of the week after putting it up. I was like, wow. And then I couldn't wait. And how I relax, go sit down in the theater and watch more stuff.
Right.
Vibe installs. Greetings from Edmonton, Canada, DJ and John. I came across your podcast on Spotify a few weeks ago, and I'm now hooked. I feel like I found my people. I am also around your age, a huge Star Wars fan, and have been a home theater enthusiast, now turned side hustle installer.
Nice.
I listen to you as I drive around during my day job and relate on so many levels. Been meaning to reach out and say hello and say thanks for putting in the time and effort. I've been enjoying the new Andor series and Rings of Power, and coincidentally also started the original Lord of the Rings trilogy with my son, who is now 13. Look forward to more content and hearing you guys talk HT. It never gets old or boring for me. #nerd for life. Thanks again, and yes, Return of the King is amazing and deserves to be enjoyed in physical form, or at least owned on disc. It's precious. Laughing face. So,
my precious.
Thanks, Vibe Installs. I'm thinking that's the name of his company for his side level hustle. He does home theater installations. It's thanks. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's so cool that people are like, you're just like me. You don't have to feel alone anymore.
They like me.
They like me. They really like me. Okay, that's that. Read that one already. End product. That one already. Yep, read that one already. All right. Thought I had a new way. All right. Gurinder. I hope John's business picks up. It's been a rough few years for a lot of smaller businesses. I may have mentioned this in a previous email, but my son and I watched the original Ghostbusters, and he was like, the special effects look bad. He couldn't believe that was considered amazing at the time. These kids are so spoiled. What each generation says about the next. So true. So true.
I mean, Gurinder. What are they going to be watching, in 10, 15 years from now, and they're going to look back and say,
Well,
whatever we think is great now looks so, it's like
I don't
Rings
know.
of Power or something, and they're going to be like, what were they thinking with that?
I know, it's so flat. I have a feeling it's going to have something to do with like, and I don't know if it's in here or if I've read it someplace else. It might be in our comments, but somebody said like holograms or like
at some point they're just going to be beaming 3D stuff right into our heads,
Yeah, like what? You had to watch a TV? You had a box
just feeding it right into our memory.
Right. Oh yeah, imagine experiencing a movie is going to be like Ready Player One.
Right.
And you're just like, wow. Or Ready Player 2, which I told you about when I started reading that. And it's like, you don't even need the headset. It's literally right into your head, which is dangerous.
It is.
But yeah. Let's see. So it says, this one here is from G. Cornell. What new title are you going to watch over the weekend? Maybe make it a regular segment on Friday's podcast. What's on tap? He says.
What new title?
What new title? He goes, no, what new title are you going to watch over the weekend? Like, what new movie do I have planned?
Right.
And, let me read the rest of his email before I get to that. He says, so I met my new neighbor yesterday, and we got to talking, and he mentioned his den and his playroom for his kids. I said, mine is a bit different with a 92-inch screen. Casually mentioned as I was watching last week's NHRA. Guess what he replied? Said his uncle owns a car in Sportsman, and we got to get you out on the track. So he's going to get him out on
nice.
it. Yeah. I was like, you got to do that. But all right, let's get to the first part. What new title are you going to watch over the weekend? And maybe make it a regular segment, what's on tap? And I replied, we just put out a 5-hour podcast and we need more segments. I said, that's part one. Part one. We can't do more segments. Part two, I don't know what I'm going to watch on the weekend.
That's the thing. I don't know what I'm going to watch new every weekend. Yeah. That there is to watch,
Yeah. It's have you ever said, "Oh, I can't wait to sit down and watch this on like such and such." Other than it being a new release, and that's what I said to G. Cornell. I was like,
I do sometimes.
Right, but no, but what I was going to say is I've done it. I'm like, "Oh, I can't wait to sit down and watch that." But then that time comes and something else has overtaken my mind and I'll watch something else. It's like it went out the window like, "Oh man, you know what? I remember how good Ambulance was. I'm going to watch my next free moments a day and a half away, right?" And then by the time I get there and I'm like, ooh, oh my God, Bram Stoker's Dracula in 4K. Boom.
Right.
What happened to Ambulance? It's gone.
Yeah.
So I don't make plans because when I do, I usually just end up disappointing myself because I'm like, why didn't I do what I wanted to do? Oh yeah, I did something better or whatever.
Right.
And I can't do that. And
I do that too because I'm like very anal about things. Like I'm the guy that can't stand any of the little red notifications on my phone.
Me too.
The second something pops up, I have to look at it.
Right.
So I'm the same way with the Just Watch bar on my Apple TV. Like if there's anything there that I need to watch, I won't start into anything else until I've cleared that off. Yeah. And then the problem is the next night I'll be ready to start that other thing, and then there'll be 3 more shows on my Just Watch bar that I need to watch instead. Yeah. So yeah, I can't help that I have to clear my queue of everything before I start something else.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm the same way. It's like I like to complete my things, but at the same time, my mind jumps around, which is like I was saying in the green room before with the Kaleidescape. It's like I just go to that paused. Okay, watch this one next. Watch this one next. All right. This is where we'll talk about AV Nirvana in our green room. We are every weekend we get the emails. I think Johnny Speakers mentioned it as well. We had 3 of the top 10 most talked about things in their forum. Okay.
That's awesome.
At number 5, our top one is the number 5 most talked about thing, your first home theater movie experience. That's the Bright Side Green Room. We also had share pictures of your vintage home theater gear and media. That topic was number 7. And at number 10, we had, at number 9, Headed to Cedia. That was number 9. So top 3, and we made the top 5. We had 3 in the top 10, and we made the top 5. It may not seem like a lot, but for something that doesn't show up on their website,
I was going to say, there's only 20 people in the forum.
Exactly.
So that's pretty awesome.
Isn't that awesome? And it's like,
I don't know if it says more about us or AV Nirvana.
No, they have
and how many people go.
Yeah.
How active their threads are.
Well, I think their threads are less concentrated.
Right.
This is a concentration of people. Right. There's so many other things. So it gives us an opportunity to, I said, my goal is to have the top 3 of the top 10. I want to get there. And I want to grow the green room and get people, but they have other things like their number 1 is Sound United rocks the industry, announces direct live functionality on Denon and Marantz. Okay.
Right.
That's AV industry news forum that they have. That's a big one. I mean, for us to top that, especially when big news like that comes out,
it'd be very hard.
It's going to be hard. But then they have so many things there. It kind of gets watered down, but we're kind of focused. Even the green room starting to get like, there's more and more things to talk about.
Right.
But the conversations that are going on there are great. And it's like, to be part of it, to be part of it, it was $10. If you give a $10 box of popcorn, you get lifetime membership to the green room.
Right.
We'll get you a 10 if you do we didn't mention that earlier, but that's what we were thinking. So a $10 box of popcorn, boom, lifetime membership. So there's now 3 ways to get into the green room. You come on the show, do a Takeover Tuesday members. We'll all be part of the green room. Patreon members, of course, are always part of the green room. And then $10 box of popcorn. And so, and I was actually thinking we maybe if the green room gets going big, we may up that. So get in now. It's a sale.
Get in while it's only 10.
Well, it's only 10, right? Look at us. We're running sales
for the first 100 members. After that, we're going exclusive.
Yep. All right. PK on YouTube. Return of the King. Regarding the tweaks, sorry, not sure whether you mentioned this in older episode or dynamic EQ. I have been religiously following some reputed audiophile YouTube channels and blindly doing what they said to switch off dynamic EQ. Later, when I learned through my research and AV Rant podcast, I realized what all I was missing by turning dynamic EQ off. Most of these YouTubers have sponsored gear with good rooms listening at reference levels, and 90% of their viewers don't have such luxury. This is where channels like yours and AV Rant are so much more closer to reality and offer practical solutions. In my view, the best feature of Odyssey 32 is dynamic EQ, which doesn't get highlighted much. It brought back all the dynamics back to LFE, even at modest volumes. And I this comment here, I love the part where it's like, YouTubers have sponsored gear with good rooms listening at reference levels. And I'm like, we are not sponsored. Our rooms are our own.
Right.
And we have just this podcast alone. I was saying this to Dan the other day when I was visiting with him. What I really like what we've done here with this podcast is I have a dedicated room I built. You have a living room theater that you put together. And Steve has a dedicated room that he had built. So we have a representation from almost all the versions of a home theater, of a home theater,
right.
Finished home theater. And they're all the different passions, right? Just because, I wish I had the ability to have one built to be able, but I don't know if I would, because I'd be bored watching somebody else do it. But you know what I mean? But it's like, just because you have one built doesn't mean you don't have passion for it. Just because you built one doesn't make you more passionate than the person that had one built. I would say that there are people that have them built that don't have the passion. I know a guy. So that's possible. It's kind of impossible to build one and not have the passion for it.
Well, true.
That's rare. You're like, I accidentally built a theater.
Right.
Whoops.
Right.
But yes, this is more realistic, and that's the idea. It's about the experiences, about having fun with it, and all the trials and tribulations that some people get frustrated with. Like you and I talk about, like with our tweaks and with the settings and stuff. Honestly, that is kind of the fun. It's like,
right.
It's to be honest, like, if everything went perfectly, I think we'd be kind of looking for something to go wrong.
Right.
I need something to do here. But yeah, AV Rant, they can work you through any of the nitty gritty stuff. They're awesome at that. Here we just have fun talking about the different experiences, and yeah, dynamic EQ it's awesome. I like it for when I'm, Jen's in the room and she doesn't want it at reference. I'll put something down and you can still hear it brings everything back out. It's a compromise, but it's a great compromise. And he is probably right. PK's probably right. It is probably one of the best features of Odyssey, because being able to do that, it gives you almost exactly what you should be getting in the first place, but maybe not at, ear-ringing decibel levels.
Right.
Let's see. This is on Hulu's Prey. Comment from it's PK again. It looks like he's going back through. Yeah. John, you're going to love this one. Did I send this to you already?
No.
John has such a misleading voice. Initially, when I was listening to podcasts without video, I would have believed he was 35 years old. His voice is so young.
Awesome.
Is it, though?
Is it? Because that means when he looks at me.
Yep. That's what I was waiting for. I couldn't wait.
He's like, oh, look at that old thing. He looks like a prune that's been left out in the sun too long.
Oh, my God. Oh, you ever been out in public and somebody looks at you and goes, damn, your voice is so young.
Yeah.
Please finish that sentence.
I haven't, but
no. Yeah. Please finish that sentence. But you look so old, right?
I heard you talking, and then I turned around and I looked for the guy that was talking.
I was out. Me and my buddy were out in a club once, and do you remember my buddy Charlie, the bodybuilder?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So he's a bodybuilder. He's about my height, maybe a little shorter, blonde hair. People thought we were brothers. I'm older than him, but we're out at a club. And our faces looked a little bit alike, but he is jacked. I mean, he was a bodybuilder, okay? Now he's an MMA black belt, has his own gym and all that. But anyways, we're in a club. Girls come over and they're talking to us, and these 3 girls are fawning all over him. They're literally saying out loud, "You're so good looking. You're so, oh my God." And they're like,
"You're so dreamy."
Yeah, no, not even joking. Music's playing loud. And one girl apparently started to feel guilty, just looks over at me and goes, "And you're so funny." Like, thanks.
Oh, and you're here too.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks for acknowledging me. And you're so funny.
Here. Yeah.
So great. But yeah, when I got this comment from PK, I was like, this is perfect. We're going to have fun with this one. We're like, I thought he was so young, and then I saw him. Whoops.
Yeah.
Blue Wave, best streaming experience, Tomorrow War. This is going way back, so he's really going for a deep dive. This is last year. Blue Wave says, completely agree on this. Aside from the recently released Rings of Power, this was the best sounding streaming movie I've heard in quite some time. Completely agree, Blue Wave. It is really good. One of the funny things about this one is I forgot to mention it when I do, me, Ralph, and Jeff from HD Report, we do a year wrap up of best movies, 4K experiences. Right. And they always do the discs because that's what they do. And I'm like, I always try to slip in a streaming service or something, something from the streaming. And I got in Foundation. That was my big one. But I forgot about Tomorrow War because that last year, it was
still
fantastic. Yeah. This year is going to be tough. This year is really going to be tough.
Got some good ones this year.
Andrea Manoia says again, he said, he was replying, I thanked him for his donation and stuff. And he says, "No problem. I listen to you almost every day during every day driving, so I need to keep it up. So you need to keep it up. I do tech support for surgeries around Italy, so I have plenty of time for podcasts.
Wow.
I'm past the point that I listen more to you talking than my wife. I've registered for AV Nirvana in the green room. Thanks again for entertainment during my trips." So he's already in the green room. We were talking about that earlier. But yeah, this stuff still blows my mind, John, that people around the world, I know we have Steve in Europe, and we have obviously Andrea in Europe. We have people in New Zealand. We have people in Australia, and it's awesome. But he's doing tech support for surgeries.
Yeah.
Sounds like a smart guy.
Yeah.
And he's listening to us.
I don't know what he's doing with
more
us,
than his wife.
Yeah.
See how passionate people are about home theater?
That might not be as smart, honestly.
Right. But that's how passionate they are about home theater. They'll suffer through us just to get some home theater content.
Exactly. Those donkeys might say something that I agree with. So
see, I liken that to like Ben Affleck's Daredevil. PK says about Return of the King, "Thanks for bringing back so many memories. I own the extended version on Blu-ray, including 3D, and still in awe of the sound design. As a kid, I was so obsessed with that ring that when my parents first got me a gold ring, I made sure it was like the Lord of the Rings. I asked the jeweler if he can engrave the inside of the ring like in the movie, and he said he can't. So I took the plain one and wore it so proudly."
Right.
See, dedication right there. That's so funny. That's awesome. And it must have been like just perfectly nice. And now, did he wear it on his finger, or did his parents give it to him and he put it on a chain around his neck like Frodo? That's the question we want to know, PK.
Yeah.
So thanks for the comments, everybody. That's it for this week. That was great. I siphoned off a few, so keep them coming. Keep the comments going on YouTube, all the compliments and stuff like that. We really, really appreciate them because it's what gets the algorithm up. So at least that's what they tell us, because, that's what we're all about here, John.
The algorithm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, all right. What are we up to next now? Oh, here we go. John, it's that time in the podcast where we go across the pond.
It is.
Are you ready?
I am.
All right. Why don't you say hi to Steve this week?
Hey, Steve.
Okay. Hi, John. We meet at last, albeit virtually.
Virtually, yeah. Once this is all pieced together, it's like you guys hugged.
Oh, that's lovely. We're all just getting along.
Yeah.
Yeah. We just need John Lennon playing Imagine in the background, and everyone's, and we're all just getting along and singing Kumbaya at the end.
Kumbaya. You're bringing it all together. We got, yep. Oh, great stuff.
That's it. Just
cuddling. Big virtual hug, everybody. Virtual hug.
There you go. That's it. Here.
We gotta figure out a way to do the high five thing.
Yeah, but it's on different sides.
Yeah, so you have to go to the middle, and I have to go to the side, and we can actually do it because we have the split screen.
That's the thing.
Yeah, we're like waving here.
Just everybody do this. Yeah, we'll be fine. There you go. That's it. One way it'll work.
Yeah, everybody on YouTube is like, what the hell? I thought this was home theater.
Yeah. Just some sort of big love-in.
I was just going to say love-in. I'm like, yeah, it is the bright side. Oh. So, how we doing this week, Steve?
Yeah, good. Very good. Very good. The man flu is slowly passing, although it sounds like yours might be kicking in.
No.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, mine's been 2 years. I told you that. I have that allergy thing that goes up and down, and I forgot to take. I skated last night, so I forgot to take my my Zyrtec that I take. I figured out a pattern that works for me, so I can get better sleep. I take a Zyrtec every night so that my head clears up and I get better sleep that way. And I forgot to take it last night. You and I had a very little conversation at like 2 a.m. my time, and it was like 6, 7 your time.
yeah. Well, quite. Although occasionally I'm having, 1, 2 in the morning my time, and then it's early evening your time. But yeah, no, it's yeah. So the man flu is going slowly but surely, but there's loads of it going around over here. It's not COVID. We've done PCR tests. It's not that. It's just a bloody annoying cold. But lots of people have got it, and of course, when you get lots of people with it, there are variations. When you do the job that I do, so I go to obviously police stations as well as courts. But at the police station, when you're in an interview, the rooms are probably half the size of this room, and you're sat there with me, client, police officer, and sometimes an appropriate adult. If the client is vulnerable, then they have an appropriate adult to help them communicate. And so that's 4 or 5 people in a very small room. And if lots of this is going around, then it is, having a cold can become a recurrent thing. And I was in an interview room yesterday with, this is why I say inappropriate adult, because he was in there, and all the way through he's sniffing and he's coughing and he's hacking, and I'm just sat there thinking, I've just got rid of a cold, I don't want another one. I nearly put out a tweet about it. I was very close to just tweeting, save me, please. But yeah, so yeah, it's going. So I'm a bit better. My voice, you could probably tell, is still not quite right. And so yeah, if it starts to fade by the end of this, you'll know why. Because it's not. I've still got a bit of stuff, mucus on the larynx, but yeah, otherwise all good. And I've been able to watch loads of good stuff this week. So there's lots to talk about.
I've got one for you. As I told you, I can't wait to get to it, and we're gonna talk afterwards again in the green room. Spoilers. But
I hope it's the one I think it is.
It probably is. Maybe not. Well, we're talking spoilers, so I think you're right. I can't wait to get to it. But what do you got? You go first, and
Okay, well, we'll trot through some of the stuff that's not going to really get your juices flowing, as it were. But we'll go through it because
horror.
Well, that too. Yeah, there's a bit of horror. I mean, obviously it's October.
Well, it is October. Now I'm going to be hitting it up. Yep.
And to be fair, Halloween is a much bigger thing in the US than it is here. It's big here, but in the US, it's like Christmas, isn't it? You guys really celebrate it. And that's still not quite the same here.
Steve, we're the land of excess. What the heck?
Well,
of course, we go overboard on everything.
But particularly Halloween. It seems to have a real thing there. So we'll get to horror. But so yeah, what have I seen this week? I've seen the first of the Police Story trilogy in 4K.
How was that?
Yeah, it's good, really good actually. Now it's a martial arts thing. I know it's not quite your thing, but
John
it's good.
loves that stuff. Yeah, John's a big fan.
And funny enough, yeah, he liked the tweet that I put out. I think he might have even retweeted it actually. And it's a 1985. It's an ultra low budget Chinese Hong Kong action film with Jackie Chan he was still known in America, obviously, but he wasn't a superstar in the States. But at that time, he was in Hong Kong, and this is the classic sort of cop story, but with stunts. That of course he does all his own stunts. Yeah. They did it all low tech. Just you'll be all right. Just throw yourself out of that bus. Just drive that car straight down the mountain. There's a thing here where in a shopping mall he jumps off of a 6-story balcony and slides all the way down this sort of rope thing to the bottom. No wires, no safety net, and because at the end they show you the B-roll, and and the guy was hospitalized several times during it and all kinds of stuff. So anyway, that's the film, and it's really good, and it is 80s, and it has its its charms,
right?
But the action is good, but the most importantly, the 4K video on it, the remaster they've done on it. Bearing in mind it's a very low budget movie and was shot handheld or at least and again a sort of cheap and cheerful way. It looks really, really nice, and certainly the best I've ever seen it. And it comes as part of a trilogy, so it's this quite expensive box set I mentioned a couple of weeks back.
Yep.
So I was impressed with that, and I put some pictures up on Twitter, and it looks decent. It's good, and the feedback from that seems to be that lots of people think the same. They've really enjoyed the set as well. Of course, with any sort of set, someone's got to go, oh, it doesn't look as good as I wanted it to look, and it doesn't look like Avatar, so I'm not happy. So there was one of those, I think, but most people are really impressed at what they've done, given the limitations of the source material. So that was good. So I like that, and that's a recommended one for me. I thought it was good. A good 3 box of crumpets out of 5. Leaning into that, that's your fault.
Yeah,
because that's all you guys talk about is crumpets when you talk about the UK. So that was that. So that's the action stuff. So now moving into horror.
All right.
So what I have seen this week is the original I Spit on Your Grave, and then the remake.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You saw
now,
both.
Have you seen them? Have you seen either of them?
I haven't seen the remake. I saw the original.
When? How long ago?
80s. I rented it.
I was going to say it must be.
I wasn't even supposed to be able to rent it, but the gentleman that owned the video store, he was my neighbor. He was a retired military, and that's what he did with his retirement. You know, like you go in the military 20 years, he's out at like 1838. 38 years old, out of the military, retired, and he opened a video store in the 80s. And it was right down the street. I used to ride my bike down there, and he would, don't tell your parents.
Yeah.
And sadly, he passed away during COVID. And they said it was COVID, but his family's like, it wasn't COVID. It's like he had been sick for a while. So, but we were lucky enough that we were able to get in. It was towards the back end of it, so we were able to get to the funeral and stuff. So, but yeah, he passed away during COVID. But yeah, I was telling people this story all the time. I got posters from him. I got all the perks of a video. So I got the cardboard cutouts that they'd have.
We used to call them stand-up standees.
Yeah. Right. I used to get those. I had a Rocky IV one. The Rocky IV standee. In my bed. I had a tiny bedroom, but it was filled with movie posters and standees and in a theater in the front. It was,
the only way that could be a cooler story is if it was your parents that owned the video shop, like mine, in the 80s.
Yeah, but see, that's the thing is he would give me stuff that my parents wouldn't let me have. So if my parents owned it, I wouldn't be able to get the stuff. So I'd ride my bike down there. Don't tell your parents. Okay, I put that in, and yeah, I watched. It bothered me. I don't think as a kid I was like, I think my parents were right. I shouldn't have seen this. Yeah, it was disturbing, to say the least.
It is. Just one very quick story about not being allowed to see stuff that your parents wouldn't let you see. Bear in mind, this video shop we had. That's how we call video shop. Video store. Right. We had 3,500 videotapes, video cassettes, as we would call them, and there was only one that my dad and my mum said, well, my mum didn't really care, but my dad, there's only one that he said, you are not allowed to watch. And that was Eddie Murphy's Delirious.
Really?
Yeah.
What was it?
No, the language. Just the
language?
Just the language. Yeah. I mean, it's Eddie Murphy, isn't it? Oh. And yet he had no problem with Beverly Hills Cop, which has that famous thing at the beginning with the police chief. Every word is F this, F that.
Right.
So he had no problem with that. But Delirious was the only film that I wasn't allowed to watch.
That's what I was going to ask.
When he was out one night, I watched it.
Yeah.
But, it's just what you're going to do.
Oh, yeah.
But that's the only one. He had no problem with Friday the 13th, 1 to 6. No problem with Nightmare on Elm Street, 1 to whatever it would have been there, 5.
Yeah.
No problem with all these movies. And yet that one he had an issue with. So that, But now the interesting thing, to go back to I Spit on Your Grave, is that it was banned in the UK.
Yeah.
So we couldn't have seen it in the 80s because it was banned.
That was the selling point here.
Really?
Oh, yeah. We knew
banned
that.
In Europe.
Like, banned in the UK. Blah, 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 banned in Europe. Whatever it said. I think it was on the box, if I remember right. I'm not kidding. I mean, what's a better way to sell something to somebody and you tell them you can't have it, but I want it. You tell them you can't have it, and it's like, that's probably what they should have done with the vaccines. Nope, can't have these. I want them. No. But you force people, and they go, no.
Yeah.
It's psychology, Steve. That's all you got to do.
Well, absolutely. Well, this was one of those video nasties, we call them here, from the 80s. So there were a number. So The Exorcist was banned. Texas Chainsaw Massacre was banned. And actually, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I was listening to Takeover Tuesdays earlier on my long drive that I did today. Toby Hooper, his claim to fame, because you guys were wondering which films he directed, and I'm screaming at the radio, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Anyway, I'm surprised
at least you didn't
hear me.
Pick up your phone and call me and correct me.
Your text came through while it was. I was so close, that close. So anyway, we got on to him. So Texas Chainsaw Massacre was banned. So I Spit on Your Grave. Last House on the Left, I think The Exorcist, all these films were banned in the 80s. There was a guy who was the head of the British Board of Film Classification, who's like the MPAA over here, the BBFC we call them. And he had just decided these films will never see the light of day and banned the lot. And this was one of them. So I'd never seen the original until this week when, the disc arrived a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'd seen the remake, but I had never seen it. So when I watched it in Cinema George this week, that was the very first time. And so in terms of the film, it is disturbing. I actually think it's actually quite a difficult watch.
Yeah.
And this is still slightly cut. There is 1 minute and 42 seconds cut from this that is in the American version of this disc.
Oh, okay.
But it's of the very unpleasant attack sequence.
Right.
And frankly, my view is, I think I'd seen enough by that point, and I don't think I needed to see another minute and 42 seconds of it. You can get what's going on, and I don't think you need much more. So that's my excuse anyway. And so the film is shocking, as it should be. I mean, they both, because it's in two parts, isn't it?
Right.
You've got the attack, build-up, attack. Again, we spoiler-free from a film from 1978, but anyway. So you've got the attack.
Film, but yeah.
Yeah. So you've got the build-up and the attack, and then you've got the revenge. The idea being that the attack is so horrible, the vengeance is then
justified,
excusable, justified. I like your word. That's better. Yeah, definitely. So it's justified, isn't it, rather than excusable? And I think both of them are equally horrific and disturbing.
Right.
And I hope that's what the filmmakers intended. That neither side of this is right. Neither of this, in fact, is justified, and that the behavior is abhorrent, and then the response is equally abhorrent. Both are disturbing, and so and I found that interesting. I'm not going to say I enjoyed the film, because that would be entirely doesn't fit right. That's like saying I had a good time with Schindler's List. It's not. It's right. You just can't say that.
Say it.
I experienced
Saving Private Ryan is another one.
Well, quite
the opening of that. It's like when I did the breakdown of that, you're like, I'm horrified that I'm entertained. It's like but you are, and you have to admit that part. But people did this. This is real, right? And it's like, and we're using it as entertainment. And it's the same idea, like you said, these things are meant to be difficult and to point to to make us look at what we have as being, better. Like you don't have that. And it's
tricky. So the original of this one has both of those. So as a film, it was certainly held the attention, shall we say. There you go, that'll do. Rather than it is an experience, and it is difficult, and at times you sort of almost wincing both before and after, especially in the bath. Ouch. And of course you haven't seen it since you probably haven't forgotten it. You might not have entirely understood it back when you were much younger. But,
right. Yeah. It's like, but you're like the image.
Yeah. We're walking with a limp as you leave your home theater, even though you've not had anything to do with it. So it was an experience, and I'm glad I've seen it. I think it's an important part of a cinematic journey. If you're a horror fan, and I am, I think it's an important film to have seen.
Right.
And I will certainly keep it in the collection. I'm not sure how many times I'd watch it, but I've got it there, and I'm glad I've seen it. So that was the original. And in terms of the image quality, interestingly, I thought it looked really good. I mean, it's very, very clear, again, given the source limitations, and because it was a very low budget film as well. So the source limitations notwithstanding, I thought it looked really good, really colorful, sharp when it needs to be. The sound is of its time. There's only so much you can do with that.
Right.
It's not, there aren't huge explosions. There's nothing flying around overhead. Even upmix, there's only so much it can do. But what is interesting is, so having seen that, and bearing in mind I hadn't seen it before, so I couldn't compare it to an earlier version. What I was able to do is, when I then went to the remake, which I have seen before, that's the 2010 remake. I've seen that a couple of times, because that's just gore for gore's sake, and again, it's disturbing and it's hard to watch. And this is an unrated cut. My one actually is the American disc. Actually, it's the American Blu-ray. So it's uncut, it's unrated, and you've got again, same thing in terms of the film. It's disturbing in the middle. Sorry, in the build up to the attack in the middle, and then you have the vengeance, which I think is a little bit more sensationalized this time. I think it was part of the horror porn era, and I think there is a bit of, there's a touch much, shall we say. I think there is some reveling in the violence, which is a bit uncomfortable. But interestingly, at the start of that film, there are trailers, because of course on the American Blu-rays, you guys get trailers quite often on them, don't you? We don't get them here very often. It's very rare to get a UK disc with trailers at the front. But this one had a trailer. Now, bearing in mind this disc is 2010, so it's 12 years old, the disc. At the start, there's a trailer to the original I Spit on Your Grave on it. So I was able to watch that in what must have been the quality of it when it came out.
Right.
And then compare that to the 4K disc, and it's totally different.
Yeah.
So that was quite fun. That was a nice little extra. I was like, "Ooh, that's nice." Came out of nowhere. It was just like, this is great.
That's funny.
So they're both very uncomfortable watches, shall we say? Both are worth seeing if you're into this kind of thing. And I mean that in the broadest of horror sense,
right?
Because no one wants to be into this kind of thing.
No.
And so it's so that was an interesting little experiment and worth doing if anyone listening to this has got them and wants or is thinking of getting them. Certainly the remastered version of the 4K disc is really good, and the remake is still only in 1080p, but is decent and worth comparing and contrasting is interesting, and there are echoes in the remake from the original. It's not completely different. And that's quite interesting to pick those out and see what they've done with that. But yeah, I can't really recommend it because it's not a very pleasant sort of
right. It's
evening.
It's not a good, it's not a great movie watch, but it is something that should be experienced. I don't know if I'll take in the remake. I don't even know if I want to revisit the other one. It's there's so much great content out there. I know what happened. I know it's like
exactly, and it's not one you could watch because from what I remember, you tolerate horror films, but Jen's the real fan. Is that right, or more? Of a fan of horror
she wouldn't.
movies
I don't even think she's seen
exactly.
It. She wouldn't like this.
No, well, that's what I mean. So if you were going to
rewatch
it, you're not going to want to sit her down and rewatch it with her. I mean, you'd just be like this, just throughout the whole film. I mean, it would be. I mean, I saw it on my own. It would be intensely uncomfortable watching it with any other person, but especially a significant other. Then I think it would actually be deeply sort of and uncomfortable. But if you're interested in horror and you haven't seen them or you haven't seen it for a while, in terms of the audio video, it's decent and it's worth a watch if that's something you think might interest you.
If that's your world.
Quite. So that's that one, and then the next horror one then was the original A Nightmare on Elm Street, which I watched this week. Now I don't understand how my thought process is here because I don't know. Did you ever own the DVDs of these?
Yeah.
Did you ever own the box sets of these?
I think I had the Laserdisc too. I love the first movie. I liked the second movie. I don't know if I really I did watch them all. I don't remember my opinions of the later ones. But Nightmare on Elm Street was in the 80s was my favorite of the Nightmare on Elm Street. Think of Halloween, Friday the 13th, Hellraiser, all the bigs. From the 80s, Nightmare on Elm Street was my favorite because I always thought it was the most creative done. And I've said that before on here. That just because I love the whole dream idea and it's up. Whereas the other, like Freddy and Michael are just like zombie drones that just walk fast.
Jason and Michael. As an 80s horror aficionado,
yeah.
Yeah. So okay. Well, that's interesting. And is that now? Tell me this: is that one you hired from or rented from the video store? Because you'd have been too young for that when it came out in '84, presumably.
No, I was 14.
So did you?
I might have seen. I know I saw it in the theater. I probably got in. Yeah, I got in.
Okay.
I got in the theater on that one. And then yes, by the time it came out on video, which was I was probably 15. By the time I could get that on video. but I did see it in the theater. I definitely saw 2 in the theater. But yeah, I love those movies. I love Freddy.
I was too young for them. I never saw 1, 2, or 3 in the cinema. I saw those as part of Mum and Dad's video shop. I saw those there, and they were great. And so, but bizarrely, I owned the DVD as well. I had because they released this massive box set over here. I don't know if they did it there, but they probably did.
Yeah,
it was a huge box set that had all those kind of. At the time, they were very de rigueur. You had all those kind of Easter eggs on the screen. You'd zip around it and you could tap on different little things that came up on the screen and it would link to other featurettes. It was a very elaborate box set. Now, I got rid of my DVDs years ago. As soon as Blu-ray began to properly take off and I knew that HD DVD had gone, I got rid of all my DVDs. And I had assumed that I had replaced A Nightmare on Elm Street, at least the first one. I knew I had the remake, again, another 2010, and that's not good, but I knew I had it. And it turned out as what was I doing? I can't remember what it was. I was watching Crystal Lake Memories the other night. It's an 8-hour documentary on Friday the 13th and all the various movies. And I love that stuff again. And so I thought, it was about Freddy versus Jason, this particular bit. And I thought, I must rewatch A Nightmare on Elm Street. Went to the collection, not there. I'd never replaced it.
Oh, wow.
So I ordered a box set. All of them are available on Blu-ray, 1080p. They're not available in 4K yet, but 1080p, £20. So that would have been about $25, $26. And all of them in a fairly sizable box set. So that arrived the next day. And then I watched it night before last, the first one. And I have to say, I mean, we all know it's a great film. I agree with you. I've noticed some issues this time that I never noticed before. And I've seen it lots of times. Yeah. So let's very quick. I'm just curious. Right. Firstly, and I did tweet this out and John responded to this as well, which is quite funny. So when did you last see it? Have you seen it recently-ish?
No, years ago.
Okay. So you might remember. Nancy is being stalked by who we know is Freddy Krueger. We only know because she says it. She only works out that he's called Freddy Krueger because when she brings the hat back from the dream, his name is in the hat.
Right.
Now, I'm just trying to get my head around Freddy Krueger, massive dream demon, serial killer, and all the rest of it, but puts his name in his hat in case he loses it.
I know. I saw that on Twitter. You're like, didn't somebody say his mother did it? Somebody said his mother did it. Like,
it just seems so stupid. And yet it never occurred
to
me.
Because, there's a lot of hats lying around like that, right?
In Dreamland.
In Dreamland. But yeah, I just, see, it's funny you say that. I always just thought of it as that was part of the mystery because they were trying to figure, this was like the adult version of Goonies or something. The kids were trying to figure out the mystery, right? And it was like, okay, who is this guy? Why is he in our dreams? And then as the movie I don't want to ruin it for people, but you find out what he did and why he's there and that's what I always thought was so creative. And in a way, it's like I never looked at what you're about that. You're 100% right. And if you look at it in that light, you're like, yeah, like why wouldn't the guy have it? But I just thought it was a creative way to we're gonna let them find out what his name is and how else could we do it? It's like, why would he say he doesn't walk up and shake your hand, right?
No, but all you need is a line of dialogue though, because as soon as she says that name, again, spoiler free, you then get the reason that the parents know about it from the parents. Right. So all you've got to do is step back a minute, remove the dopey name on the hat and say, because she says, he's a guy with a fedora and a striped vest and he's got knives for fingers or a glove with knives on it.
Right.
Now, there aren't many people like that wandering around the place.
Well, you want to
presumably the mother's going to say that's Freddy Krueger. Right. You don't need the hat.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, that was that. And also the other thing that I noticed as well this time is she, a number of times in the film, unusual things happen, but they appear to happen in the real world, not the dream world. So I can't quite understand if I understand when you're asleep, he's in the nightmare, so things can happen. Anything can happen in the nightmare. I get that.
Yeah.
But a number of funny things happen in the real world when the character is not asleep. And I can't quite figure out, and it was kind of doing my head in, how is it that happens when they're wide awake in the real world and no one's asleep. So I haven't, yeah, there you go. We had that conversation that while back about, what was it? Malignant. About how it is they could control how could they control the radios when
there was no rhyme or reason. Like, you're right.
Exactly. And that's what I had with this. And suddenly I'm thinking, well, that doesn't quite make sense, but it was still very cool. And the main thing I would say is the audio on it. The video is not bad at all. The audio on it is actually really good and up mixes beautifully in Neural X. So it floats around the room. The score floats front to back, left to right. It just kind of lingers in the air, which is a really nice thing when it's trying to be ethereal and a bit scary and a bit strange. It's really nice, and it does it right from the very beginning. And so that was a really nice surprise. I was not expecting that at all.
I just bought it.
And
I hadn't bought it yet.
The first one or the whole set?
No, just the first one. They don't have them all. I mean, they have them all, but the first one is basically the on Kaleidescape. 2 and 3 are in standard def. Okay. This one's in HD with the DTS. And
I'll be really interested to see what you make of it. And this is the perfect season for it. So if you do sit down, I'll be really curious to see what you make. But it is really, really nice for a film from 1984 that was quite low budget even then. Hence all the various gags that they came up with. Because there are no stars in that film. I mean, Johnny Depp, of course, went on to become a star.
Johnny Depp,
but exactly that. So it's a low budget, lean and mean movie. So you don't expect this kind of this really clever score to do what it does, but it really works well. So again, I'll be curious to see what you make of it. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised with the audio, and the video's decent too. They haven't scrubbed it clean. It's a nice natural grain. The colors really pop, and it's quite a Technicolor movie anyway in many ways. And so especially all the daytime stuff. So I thought it was really good, a nice surprise, and I'm looking forward to moving on to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. I like 1 and 3. I like 1, 2, 3 are really good. 4, 5, 6, less so. We'll see what they're like when I revisit them. And then 7 is a new nightmare, which I haven't seen since the cinema, and I didn't think much of it then. But I'm told, and people that again I know well, that it's actually a proto Scream. It was Scream before Scream came along. So it's very self-referential. It's very knowing. So I need to revisit that now I'm older, and hopefully I'll enjoy that more this time. We'll see. So nice. Those are the ones from this week, apart from the main one, which is the one from last night. Now, I don't know if this is the one you want to talk about.
Probably not if you just saw it last night. Go ahead.
Maybe not then. Old Henry?
Oh, no. I haven't seen it. No, I haven't seen it yet. But you, I saw your tweet about it. I'm very interested in this. Unforgiven or
it is. So so big thank you to you and John, because without you two mentioning it in the new releases thing that 2-3 weeks ago, I'd never heard of it. Didn't know what it was. And when I saw the still on the picture you put up, it looked to me like a sort of direct-to-video, Young Guns ripoff, because of the, you've got the heads across the top, you've got the kind of quite a cliched image, which does the film no justice whatsoever.
Really? Because I actually liked it.
Does it no favors. It just looks cliched to me. That picture looks like a DTV movie. Well, it looks like a DTV movie, one that like a movie of the week. Not quite a Hallmark channel because it's a Western, but just a knockoff of millions of other Westerns you've already seen. I mean, some might say all Westerns are a knockoff of one another, but having then seen that on the picture you put up, having then looked into it and seen a very glowing set of reviews on IMDb, I thought, do you know what? I watched the trailer, liked the trailer. I thought, I'm going to get it. So I had to import it because it's not available here at all. It's not even available on streaming. It's not available on DVD, Blu-ray, or 4K yet here. And it arrived yesterday. I straight to the top of the viewing pile, and I watched it last night. So I think it is excellent.
Really?
Very, very good indeed. Yeah. The movie. No, I'm not. I'm going to say very little about it because it is a film that, as we've talked about before, washes over you and envelops you, and it's a film that is not necessarily going where you think it may go. It is. It's definitely owes a debt to Unforgiven. There's no getting away from that. It is there's no doubt, and it's no surprise from the trailer that the main protagonist, literally the old Henry of the film, is not quite what he is presented to be initially. That's no secret because it's in the trailer. But it's very, very well told. It's only about an hour and 40 minutes long. It's relatively short. It moves along nicely. It's very kind of low key. The score is awesome. It's a sort of the main theme is just a violin, just a sort of soulful, mournful violin playing, which is really evocative. And it's one of those westerns that you feel like you're in that world. You almost feel it's like Dances with Wolves and some of the best westerns where you can almost feel like you're in this world. You could almost just sit there and watch the world go by within this world, and it's like that. And the big thing about it, which I did put up on Twitter with the pictures, is it's shot in 2:66:1 aspect ratio, so ultra wide.
Ultra wide, so you get thicker bars at the top and bottom.
Yeah, quite significantly thicker as well.
Yeah,
not that for those of us, I mean, you've got a much bigger screen than mine, but I would say from even my size screen, it looks amazing.
Yeah,
and the scope ratio for it just makes it look even better than it would have been otherwise. And it's unusual. I mean, the only thing I could think of, I was trying to think of other movies recently that use that, and the only other one I could think of was another Western, which is The Hateful Eight, which was shot in this sort of 270, so slightly wider, but in that ultra wide ratio. And it fits the movie beautifully. It's really, really nice. And the 4K and the HDR, again, you get the sunsets, the sunrises, you get the sun glinting through not cornfields, but wheat fields and all this stuff. And it looks beautiful within the parameters of the film. So yeah, I really, really recommend that. That is one to get all day long. Sound is good.
In it. Kaleidescape has it. And I interestingly enough, it's the studio is Shout Factory.
Yeah.
And when I had Luke on, he was saying that, because I remember I mentioned different, like some of these smaller studios like Shout Factory, Arrow stuff. Kaleidescape, and he's like, no, they actually have a deal with Shout Factory. They have an agreement with them too, so they get their stuff every now and then. And this clearly is one of them. But their aspect ratio listed here is 240. But I'm interested. I wonder. Sometimes it'll say stuff like that, but even though they probably just don't have it set for a 270 or 266 or something, so. I'll be interested. Yeah. I'll probably grab that, and once October, remind me after October, and I'm done with horror. I'll probably revisit, because Unforgiven's one of my favorite movies. And when I read this, I was like, back when we were talking about it, and I was reading what it was about. I was like, I wonder if that's anything like it. So, but yeah,
it is. It definitely owes a debt to it, but it's Unforgiven but with an additional element to it that elevates it. So is it as good as Unforgiven? No. Clint Eastwood in a cowboy hat on a horse is up here. You just can't criticize it. You can't.
Right.
I mean, you just can't. However, this knows Unforgiven exists, as in the filmmakers, of course, and tries to add a little something different to it. All the performances are top notch. It's quite violent at times. It's got, it's not afraid to show you what happens when someone gets shot. But it's nevertheless really well done. And I wouldn't have expected a performance like this, a leading man performance like this from Tim Blake Nelson, who's normally a character actor. He is the thinker or whatever he's going to be in the Incredible Hulk. He's not the thinker. What am I thinking? Brainiac. Oh God, I don't know. I just got my head gone.
I'm with you.
Yeah, got it. Yeah. So he's normally a character actor, and yet he's the lead in this, and he is perfect for it. He's not. He looks like he's from that era. He looks like he's just been pulled right out of the Old West, And I don't mean that to be rude to him, but he does.
Yeah.
And so he's not your typical. It's not your Jesse James, Brad Pitt. It's not your chiseled leading man. Kurt Russell in Hateful Eight or Bone Tomahawk. He looks genuinely like he is from that era. And when the film plays out, and we may have to talk spoilers on that when you've seen it, because I'll be curious to get what you think of it. When the film plays out and you look at it again, having watched it, it has an extra layer of sort of truthfulness to it. And I know I'm being very, very obtuse, vague, because I do not want to spoil it. It needs to be seen, but it's very, very good, and it deserves to have been seen by more people. So through this, people should get it. In the States, you can get it, obviously, no problem.
Right away.
Here, you'd have to import it, and it's not cheap, especially the way the pound is at the moment. But it's really good, and the sound is only DTS HD, but again, it's 5.1, but you upmix it.
Yeah,
and there are a number of occasions when and as I was watching it, I thought DJ's going to love this, where you get a shot ring out, and you then get the echo rolling back across the room, and it's so cool. And there are loads of them. It's not just once or twice,
right?
And it's such a cool effect that it genuinely, you feel like you're in a field, you feel like you're in this big area, and it's really well done, and a film that I can imagine seeing time and time and time again. This is not a one and done. I think this is one that you could almost watch as often as you watch Unforgiven. It's really well done. Funnily enough, the director is a guy called, is a really unusual name. He must be either a first-time director or he's just very low. He's on Twitter, and he's only got about 700 followers on Twitter as a director of a film. And so I'm going to reach out to him because I want to know why shoot in that very difficult scope ratio when it must have been more difficult to do, because it's not just all exteriors. If the whole thing is shot outside,
right?
It's been shot in Tennessee, in Watertown in Tennessee. I looked it up on IMDb. And so if it's all exteriors, you want that wide ratio, don't you? You want to get as much of that beautiful, pristine landscape in.
Because it's a flat area relatively, right?
Yeah,
You're not looking, it's not like Lord of the Rings where you have...
No.
You want to have a wide shot for Lord of the Rings, but you also need to have a little bit of height there to get that mountainous area where this is the plains. So I think stretching that out really amplifies that look. That's what it's like to be out there, and you look around, you're like, holy crap, right? Because your eyes don't go up. There's nothing. So you're just like this.
Exactly.
And you're right. When you bring it inside, that same aspect ratio, you're going to be like, but I'd be willing to bet that he says like it was worth that juxtaposition of going inside a building and even keeping that aspect ratio, and now taking that frame and going outside. It just amplifies that even more for the viewer. And I love that stuff.
I'm definitely going to reach out to him just out of curiosity. I just want to know. But it's an important film. Is it going to be a stone cold classic? Are we going to be talking about it in 20 years' time? Probably not. But is it very, very good? Yes, it is. And for a film like this, these are the sort of movies we should be championing, really, and telling people about. Because it just, I don't know if it had a theatrical release. I've got I don't know. But if it did, it was a blink of an eye and it is gone.
Right.
And it didn't hit any streaming services as far as I know. And again, had you guys not flagged it up, I wouldn't have even been aware of it. But I'm really glad I imported it and saw it. So yeah, I'll be. Again,
where we'll
really
be talking about it in the future? We probably I haven't even seen it yet, but just off of your review, your raving review of it, is in the future somebody goes, "Oh, I love Unforgiven." You're like, "Old Henry, you love that? Yeah. Go see this. It's not as good, but you're gonna love this. It's that, and it's got this different element." And I'm just parroting you. It's like, but I think that's where it could live. That's the world, and that's where it gets its legs over time, because there are some movies that just don't get they just don't get the publicity because there's so much content out there.
Yeah.
And but yeah, it's
well worth picking up. It really is. I was very pleasantly surprised, and well worth interrupting my horror marathon to do it. I'm glad I did. Yeah. It's really good. So I will. Yeah, I'll set a reminder outside of October to remind you.
Yeah, November 1st.
Yeah, November 1st. Yes. So that's the stuff I've seen this week.
All right.
That's pretty much it. I did see the new episode of Andor earlier today. I have seen that now as well. But
that's today. I haven't seen that yet.
You've only just woken up.
I haven't seen that yet. But let's we could talk. Did you see the end? Was it Rings of Power? Yeah. The end of the latest.
I haven't seen it yet.
Okay, you haven't. John and I talk about it later. I wanted to know what you thought on your TV. There's an issue. Not with the movie, but with the they shot a really dark nighttime scene on a beach. And
is that Rings of Power, or was that the House of Dragons?
House of Dragons. I'm getting them so mixed up. House of Dragons. Yeah. Sorry. Did you see that one?
It's okay. I haven't seen any of House of Dragons yet. I'm waiting for the 4K disc. It sounds like I've made the right choice if there are issues with the stream.
But there are. Well, I that's why I wanted to get your opinion on it, is because you have a really nice display and it's properly calibrated and all that. John had some issues. We'll talk about it. We're going to talk about it in a little bit. But he was interested to see what I thought with the Lumagen, and I liked it. John liked it. He could see, but he's like, we discuss it later, but I wanted to get your opinion on it. But it is definitely something. And I love that HBO is doing that, because I saw one person on Twitter, and I say this to John as well. They're like, I think they're doing it on purpose. Now, is he saying that in like a mean way? Like the producers of Game of Thrones and now House of the Dragon is like, haha, we're going to push the envelope. Is he saying it like they're doing it on purpose to really show people? Or is he like, they're doing it on purpose to screw with us? Like mean, like I do think they're doing it on purpose. They are pushing the envelope with what HDR is capable of, what streaming is capable of. And where the benefit, with the properly set up systems, or even in a case like John, where he's like, I don't think I pulled everything out of this that I could have, but he knows. And it's something that we don't look at it as bad. We look at it as a challenge, right? And that's what John and I get into. And how do you make your system better? And it's like, I mean, the show Foundation was the reason that pushed me to buying the Lumagen. I was just so fascinated with the show, and I knew I was missing something. I wasn't getting everything I could get out of this show on Apple TV. And then I was like, I need more. What can I do? And I actually tried cheaper ways. And finally, Jim helped me with those cheaper ways. And then finally, he was like, just get the Lumagen. And I'm like, all right. So I did. And then, I've said it on the pod. I'm like I got emotional. I was like, oh my God. Look at that. It's like, I didn't even know was there. And I go to that scene all the time now. But it's the content is what's pushing us. It's what's driving us. So the fact that HBO, which has been panned for a while, with some of their content they put out, Game of Thrones had been on there for a long time with no 4K or HDR. And now it is. Looks great. But I love these content providers are pushing the envelope for people like us. And it's so much fun to listen to the people on Twitter that think physical media is just as good as streaming. And they're like, this looks like crap. Oh, okay. Last week you were saying that this is the same, but you're telling me that looks like crap. Okie dokie.
I will buy the set. As soon as it comes out, I'm going to buy it on 4K. Yeah. But the reason is, you see, we don't have HBO Max here. We just don't have it over here. I don't know if we're going to get it either, but so here there is a separate channel that shows it on a cable service called Sky TV.
Yeah.
And I don't have that. Okay. So I can pay for it extra on this app called Now TV, but then it's only playing it in 5.1, if that, and even then, and also it'll be a down converted 1080p. Of crap, and I've got recent thing when the Snyder Cut came out.
Yep,
that was the same. That because again, there was no HBO Max, so I paid for that to watch it, and I remember watching that in the cinema room, and it was 2-channel, 1080p, and it looked okay, but it's just a way. So I don't want to do that with House of the Dragon. I want to wait, see it properly, and then I can see then whether there's an issue with this beach scene. I mean, I had read over the weekend that people were complaining about it, but it's no different to what we had with Game of Thrones in that episode 6, was it, or 7?
Episode 3, season 8. Long Night. The Long
right,
Night.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. And they were moaning about that, and yet I didn't have a problem with it. And certainly the 4K disc looks great, and again, properly calibrated in a well-lit room, light controlled room. Then it's absolutely fine. And I suspect it'll be the same with this. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to seeing it. Although I've had mixed reviews about the actual show itself.
I'm loving it. I'm loving it.
I spoke to a friend of mine this morning as I was driving up to see my dad, and he was saying he's pretty much done with the series. He said it's just too slow, and he loves Game of Thrones. He doesn't like how it ended, but he loves Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And was just like, from episode 1 of Game of Thrones, there was Sean Bean, that you knew what they were doing, you knew where they were doing it. There was a cliffhanger after each episode. There was a narrative drive. Not quite the words he used, but it's what he meant. There was a narrative drive to Game of Thrones that he says, and I don't know because I haven't seen it, but he says that's very lacking in House of the Dragons. He said it's just people all look kind of similar to one another. They're all kind of, there's a lot of sitting around. He says, I can't work out whose dragon belongs to who. And so he's become frustrated with it, and he is done with the series. He said, I'm not going to bother with it.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to it. I will buy it day one on 4K disc. It's me.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to it, but as I said, I can't stream it easily, so I'm happy to wait, if that makes sense, rather than watch it in a poorer environment. I want to see it properly. So once I've seen that, then I'll know, and I can assist you with my view. But not until then.
I think the story it feels slower, and I talk about this with John a little bit too. It feels slower than Game of Thrones, but Game of Thrones. I mean, and I asked John this, are we suffering from the fact that we have 8 seasons of history of Game of Thrones, and the knowledge of what came after season 1 that played into what we think of season 1 now? Because there's going to be a lot more. This isn't a one and done season, right? There's going to be more story, and they're still developing it. Now, I will say, and this is spoiler free, but we don't have a Peter Dinklage. We don't, and what I say to John later is we don't have that. That's the one thing I wish this show had that Game of Thrones had throughout, is that we had that comic relief, which takes the dire situation that this entire world is in, right? Whether it's House of the Dragon or Game of Thrones, but it takes that dire situation and creates some dynamics to the show, because there's moments when you're laughing, and then there's moments when you're horrified, and there's moments when you're scared, right? Or outraged, right? All of those, you had all those things here. We're getting all of that in House of the Dragon, but we're not getting the levity that is brought by Peter Dinklage. So everything's kind of flatlined up here, and that's where I think people are feeling that it's a little slow, because pacing can appear to be quicker if you're going like this. If you're like, yay, bad, and you're always looking around that next corner of what's coming next, whereas we're just going along the ride and it's still just flat, and you're like flat in a way of like dire, outraged or whatever, but you don't have those like lighter moments to create that dynamics.
It's sort of a dramatic fatigue.
Correct.
It's just all the same stuff. Yeah, which is a pitfall, isn't it? And to be avoided. You see, my take, again, bear in mind I haven't seen it, but I was wondering if, and it's just a theory from nowhere, whether with Game of Thrones, of course, that when that came out, it was the books were a huge hit, but most people, again, the great unwashed, and I would have been one of those, had never read the books,
right?
So didn't know what it was, and so they had seen Lord of the Rings and kind of assumed, well, it's going to be that, isn't it? Because there's dragons and stuff in it. So that's what it'll be. And so I think they felt the need to jump into the story more quickly. They had to get people on board that didn't know this world, didn't understand it. They also, as you say, Peter Dinklage, Sean Bean, who of course was a familiar face, and was probably the only star in air quotes of that first series, because Lena Headey people had seen but wouldn't really know her.
Oh, I know her. From,
so
Terminator, from Sarah Connor Chronicles,
Sarah Connor Chronicles,
300, Dread.
Exactly. But she's a character actress. She would not have been a star at that. I think she is now, but I don't think it would have been then. So I think they felt a pressure to drive the story, to get you involved and have cliffhangers to keep you coming back for more. And I wonder now whether they think, rightly or wrongly, whether they now think, well, you know the world, you know what Valeria is, you know who the Targaryens are, you know who the Lannisters are. If you're watching this, you're not going to watch this having not seen Game of Thrones, because that would be odd.
Right.
And so they may feel that dramatic pressure, that pressure to move everything forward, isn't really there because there is a fan base for this already built in. Now, that might be nonsense. I'm just assuming that based on kind of the description of the episodes that my friend has given me. But that would explain why it's a bit slower. That would explain why it's perhaps a bit more cerebral.
You're already hooked. Yep. They don't need the hook.
Yeah, quite.
And that's a great point. And like you said, rightly or wrongly, because sometimes you do still need a hook, because we still want to be entertained. And I was, and all those names you mentioned, all the cities and stuff, and they're all mentioned a little bit in the early episodes. So that to me was the hook, right?
Yeah.
But then once you're into the world, it kind of slows. It slows down. I'm still fascinated by it. I still love it. And I say to John again later that I'm also watching it like 85% of concentration on the story, because I know I'm going to be watching this like 100%, like when the disc comes out. I want to experience it here. I want to let it wash over me. But then when I watch it a second time, that's when I'll be like, oh, that's what when you watch something a second time, you can get a lot more because you know the full story. You enjoyed it. But now
you see where it's going.
Yeah. And you're like, she's foreshadowing right there. When the first viewing, you don't know that person's saying what they're saying. You don't know what they're talking about yet. So I'm really looking forward to that disc. It's a great home theater experience, even on HBO Max. They did a fantastic job. So yeah, people in the States, definitely, it's worth the watch. And then when the disc comes out, it's definitely much like I'm saying with Top Gun, Maverick. It's like, watch it and then compare and enjoy.
House of the Dragon should be an excellent home cinema experience. I mean, Game of Thrones is some of the best home theater TV there's ever been.
Yeah.
I mean, that Battle of the Bastards episode, I mean, that's one of my demo sequences. I've got my sister-in-law, she's a big Game of Thrones fan. She's only ever watched it on a 46-inch TV that they've got TV speakers. And she loves it. She's seen Game of Thrones many times. So when she popped around to Cinema George, I thought, right, let's just put on the Battle of the Bastards episode. The two bits: the attack on the bay, and then the field battle sequence. And the horses in that. I mean, you've seen it that way. I mean, they come thundering in like Braveheart and the Last Duel. They come thundering in, and then all the cacophony of noise around it. And again, she was just like, I've never seen Game of Thrones. I said, indeed. Now now you're seeing it the way it's perhaps it's meant to be seen. So with all of that stuff, that the quality of that, no doubt they're going to transfer that to House of Dragons and then push it even further.
Yeah.
So it should be, and of course now you've got these 747 size, dragons floating about the place. From what I'm told, I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Then those should have all the power and the majesty and the noise. Made for overhead speakers, made for envelopment around the room. So I'm looking forward to that.
There's some takeoffs where your subwoofers are just like the wings are on either side. They're so big because you're focused in on the dragon, and you're watching it take off, and the wings go off screen, but the sound and you can feel the power of the, because they don't flap like a hummingbird. Right? No, so you get the woof, and your room just goes woof. You're like, oh my God.
Nice.
Oh, it's so good.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that. I mean, like I said, I mean, even with my friends saying, I'm done with it, I've got to see it. I really do like Game of Thrones. Funnily enough, I've got the whole box set of them all. I haven't been back through them. I've seen them all 2 or 3 times, but I've had the 4K box set now for nearly 2 years, and I've not been back through and watched it from the beginning. Before this disc comes out, I will, because I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, I've seen them all.
Yeah.
I saw them when they came out. I saw them on Blu-ray. The last 2 seasons I saw in 4K because that was the 4K.
Yeah.
But then, so I will go back, and I'm looking forward to going through them all. I mean, as I said, I bought it 2 years ago and just haven't got back around to rewatching them. but I will before House of Dragons comes out, just for the experience.
That's an endeavor right there. That's like, what, 80 hours?
Seasons. Yeah,
it's about 80 hours, something like that. Or it's a little less than that. I think it's like 60 hours because the last couple seasons aren't 10 episodes. They're like six and seven, something like that.
Yeah, so that'll be great. Oh, I will do that before House of Dragons comes out. I've got time. That's what I'm telling myself.
Look at you.
I've got time.
All right. All right. This last one, Steve.
Okay. Lay it on me.
My man. You recommend anything for me. You've completely redeemed yourself.
Which one?
Predestination.
Predestination.
Predestination. Yeah.
What's that?
Predestination. Did you tell me about it? I thought you told me about it.
Wasn't me.
Oh, wow. Oh, no. Oh, it had to be a Takeover Tuesday.
Yeah, mine was the outfit and those ones. I didn't.
Here's the best. No. I thought it was you. All right, so it's not you.
I'll accept it if I've redeemed myself. I'll just accept it. That's fine.
Now I know. Was it Andrew? Now whoever's listening is going, it was me. And I was like, I thought it was you.
And I'm taking all the credit for it. I mean, I hope it's really upsetting them.
No, it was who could it have been? Who would it have been? It could have been. I'm trying to think of who I had.
Not only did I not recommend it, I've never heard of it.
I know. Well, now I'm going to recommend it to you.
Oh,
it might have been. Was it John from last week? It had to be within the last couple of weeks. So it was either John or I think the Takeover Tuesday before that was Andrew. So maybe it was Andrew. And so hopefully let me know, whoever it was. I'm sorry, because later I tell John about it and I'm like, you got to see this. So anyways, this movie is a mind bender.
Okay.
It's insane. It's about time travel. There's a time travel, and that's in the synopsis. But it's got Ethan Hawke, Sarah Snook, and put it this way, like, I can't spoil it. I don't want to spoil it for you. It's on Amazon right now here in the States. It's on Amazon for like $9.
Okay.
John looked it up. He said he wanted to see if he could rent it. So he might rent it. But it's I wouldn't say it's a great home theater experience. It's really good. But I'll be honest with you, the story twisted my head so much that I wasn't really so much involved with my theater.
Okay. Yeah, we've got it for free here on Amazon Prime. It's free.
There you go.
Yeah, there we go. Look at that. Yeah, 2015 film. An hour and 38 minutes long.
2014. Yeah, February 2015 it came out.
Chronicles the life of a temporal agent sent on an intricate series of time travel journeys.
Yes.
Designed to stop crime before they are committed.
Yeah, so it sounds like Time Cop or Minority Report.
Minority Report, yes.
Right, but it's closer to Time Cop than it is to Minority Report because he does travel through time. The beginning of the movie, you're not really aware of that, but it's in the synopsis. I feel like if they didn't put that in the synopsis, it would have been even better, but I don't think they would have got people to see it. But by the end of the movie, so let me give you my scenario. This is spoiler free. I started watching it on Saturday, and my son had some work to do on his truck. So he goes out into the driveway. I asked him if he wanted to watch it with me. Actually, if he was going to watch a movie with me, we were going to watch Bullet Train. And he said no. And I go, all right, I'll wait for you. And I go, let me put this one on. So I put on Predestination. It's like an hour and a half long. When you take the credits off, it's like an hour 30. Okay. It's a quick view. But at the end, so my son comes in. I'm probably about 40 minutes into the movie. And he goes, I can't do what I wanted to do. I need a part, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, all right. He goes, I was going to hang out with you. I'm like, let me get you up to speed. So I start telling him about the first 40 minutes. I swear to God, the first 40 minutes, it took me to describe it to him, what was going on.
40 minutes.
It took, because he's like, but what about this? And I go, yeah, but this is this. Oh, and I forgot to tell you about this part. So at the end of the movie, now I caught him up. He watched the rest of the movie with me. And then we sat in that theater for probably 45 minutes and went, how is this? And blah, 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 blah. And I was like, it is a mind bender. We had a blast with it. And it was, it's I don't want to say it's not wonky like a hurricane heist, but it's got some real twists to the whole entire time travel idea that it's so much fun. And I was just excited to talk to you because maybe that's why I thought you said it, because I just wanted to talk to somebody that had seen it and I thought it was you. But yeah, I think it was either Andrew or John. It was Takeover Tuesday. It must have been Andrew or John. And yeah, because I know it wasn't Reggie. I'd seen it before I talked to Reggie. Yeah, it was amazing. It was.
Well, just if we could just clip the bit, can I just clip the audio where you says I've redeemed myself, and can I just use that? That's fine. I'll just assume it.
You can just go see it, and you know what's going to be funny? You're going to see it and be like, "I hated it, DJ." So you ruined yourself.
Yes, yeah. I redeemed myself inappropriately. Yeah, and yes, you not redeemed yourself.
No, but that's funny. So now it's going to be funny how this podcast plays out too, because I'm going to rave about it later. Then I'm going to talk to you about it, and I'm going to say that I was so happy to talk to Steve about it, but I hadn't talked to you yet. Yeah. But it didn't work out. So
it's almost like there's a time travel loop.
Yes. Look at you. This pod done.
I blame. Do you know who I blame? I blame Future DJ. Clearly, Future DJ's been up to his tricks. That's what's going on. That'll excuse it. There you go. It's a time loop.
What it is. That's great. That's great.
That's who to blame. Always blame Future DJ.
Yep.
And frankly, I'm still upset that Future DJ hasn't sent me the lottery numbers. So
I got you 7. It'll come through.
Yeah. Well. That's it. There you go. I only need 5 more.
I can give you the numbers, but you don't know when they're going to play.
Oh, Future DJ, honestly. Right. That's not good enough. But yeah. So I will give it a watch. I will give it and if it's not particularly a home theater one, presumably I could watch that on my iPad when I'm stuck out somewhere.
Well, no, it is a good home theater.
Got to focus.
It's got a good home theater environment to it. But again, I know there were some instances that there's some great, all right, here's one. It just came back to me, but I'm so overtaken by the story and by the experience of the movie that it is, that I'd forgotten this. And then when I sat down with my son, when I brought him in, I go, oh, this has got some great bass. There's some nice gunshots. He uses a revolver.
Okay.
And there's some real nice gunshots that ring out. And my son was like, yeah, he uses it again later too in the movie when my son came in. And I was like, see, I told you, they're really nice. So there's nice bass, nice surround. But again, that when you're done with it, you're going to have had a great home theater experience, but that's not going to be the focus. Okay, I swear to God, you're not even probably going to text me. You'll call me. Because you can't talk about this through text. That's why I almost texted you about it. And I was like, it's not worth it. I can't. And I'm like, now I kind of wish I had, because I wouldn't have just made a fool of myself to either Andrew or John.
It would have been confusing for me, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Well, that film, that was great. Predestination, brilliant. I would have been,
Yeah, exactly. Kind of like you just were, only it's live in the podcast.
Oh, well, never
we could
mind.
just
I thought you were going to say,
out, but
I was hoping you were going to say the outfit or something that I had recommended. But,
I keep scrolling past that. Yeah, I bought it. I haven't seen that yet. Or the other one, the fire jumper one. Is it not the fire jumper? What was the other one you recommended with Miles Teller?
Only the Brave. Only the Brave.
Yeah.
That
one I haven't
really
seen yet
need
either.
to give that a go. Yeah, because I know you're going to like that one. I know that's one that you're going to be like, wow. And actually, when I recommended it, I don't know if you saw in the comments afterwards I don't know if it was on YouTube or on Twitter, but one of the two, people saying, oh, yeah, that's a great film, and and a number of people have seen it since. So I absolutely, I know you'll like that one.
Yeah. I know. So, I think I was going to watch that one, but I think isn't it like 220? So I was like, I'll just get this one in, because that's what was nice about Predestination is like, you ever search for movies like that? I got some time, and you look up, because I could sort by time. Be like, oh, there's a nice short one I want to see. Be like, and you pop in and be like, oh, there you go. And it's because you only have so much time, but you want to take the whole thing in. There you go.
Yeah, it does. And so many movies these days are 230, 240. And it's an investment. I mean, look at that, the one we talked about last time, Everything Everywhere All at Once. It's a kind of frivolous throwaway film until near the end. And yet 2 hours and 30 minutes, 2 hours 20, it's a lot of time to set aside to watch something in one. So I get that. I think it's definitely a refreshing thing sometimes when you see a film and it's 130, 140. It's lovely. You know, I could just blast through that. So yeah, no, I will. I'll give that a go. But if you're in any doubt about whether the outfit's any good or any of the films I recommend, just ask future DJ. He should be able to tell you. He will have seen it. He will be able to guide you. And if he says it's rubbish, then you don't need to worry about it.
I don't even have to ask you anymore. Just ask me, did you like this? No.
Rubbish.
Rubbish.
Rubbish. Yes.
All right.
So yeah, but there we go. No, that is brilliant. So I can't take credit for that, although I will. I probably shouldn't.
I apologize to whichever of you it was. I really am sorry, but I mean, obviously, look at these are all. I'm talking to so many. It's all washing over me. But I'm listening. I just don't remember.
If you listen really carefully, you can just hear the sound of someone smashing their radio with a baseball bat.
I know. I just lost a great listener that's been on the podcast. Like, screw him. He doesn't even remember me.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I think I can sense another green room thread starting even as we speak.
Right.
Besmirched by DJ.
But the best part is I was so looking forward to the conversation. The listeners are going to get to hear me rave about what a great conversation that we never had.
Future DJ. It's a time loop. That's the only way to do it. It's a time loop.
And it couldn't be a better movie to have it happen with.
There we go. That's it. That's an alternate timeline where I recommended it. That's just, it's as if it never existed.
Yeah.
It's fine. These
funny.
things happen.
All right. We'll end on that very high note. That is great. That is good fun. And that's the thing. That's the fun thing about podcasting. Like when I first started, I would be sick to my stomach right now. Because you get you'd be like, oh my God, I'm going to offend someone. I'm going to do it. But I know, I trust my listeners. I trust them.
Yeah.
It was like, we all make mistakes. Who cares? And you just have fun with it and move on. And it's like, I do feel bad, but I know I'm like, hey, look, I talked to a lot of people and I'm having a blast with it. So, but yeah, it's like, oh yeah, definitely. I told you that's how we met. It's like, I was sick to my stomach that you didn't like me. It's like, oh no.
And now just like,
am I wrong? But
no.
So, all right, we'll get out of here. Steve, thanks as always. And
my pleasure.
We will be back next week. Later, buddy.
Mm-hmm. Look forward to it. Cheers, buddy. Bye-bye.
And we're back.
And we're back. Thank you so much, Steve. That was great.
Awesome as always.
Awesome as always. Wait till we get to I'll tell you more when we get to our real HD experiences. This is one of the things we talked about in there with Steve. Ooh, I can't wait. All right. You ready to get to 4K releases for next week?
Yes.
Which is the what's next week? Next week's
the 11th?
Yes. 10/11.
The 11th.
Look at that. I already changed it and everything. Look at me go. All right then. Here we go. And there they are. All right. Not a new feature, just a new way I'm doing this now. But first movie this week that we have coming out on Tuesday is Tuesday the 11th. It's Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure from Shout. That's the original coming out.
The original.
Yeah. So that's coming out on Tuesday from 1989. Next up, we have Dracula from 1931 in black and white. Because
I'm interested to see how that looks.
I am too. I really am.
Honestly.
Yeah. Because I loved Psycho. I love how they're remastering these older movies. I don't know which one I'm going to pick. So let me get through them all because there's a whole box set too. But we also have
the Universal.
Yep.
Set?
So we have these are just the way they came up in the little app that I use for this to grab the images and for the information. So also from 1931, Frankenstein in 4K. Then we have, I think this is because they're being released separately, but The Godfather, Godfather Coda, and The Godfather Part 2 all being released, I think, separate, because they've been out for a while in 4K, but I think I think it was
the box set's been out. Yeah.
Yes. So now they're being released separately on Tuesday,
which is
as
good because
well.
those are the only two you really want, anyways.
Like I heard.
I don't have the box set.
Oh, really? I grabbed them. I grabbed them all on two. I grabbed them all on Kaleidescape. It had to be back in like March or April when the box set came out. So
yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah. Also, The Invisible Man from 1933. That's coming out.
Yeah.
Limey is coming out. It's a suspense crime thriller from 1999. Cast is Terrence Stamp, Leslie Ann Warren, Luis Guzman, Barry Newman, Joe D'Alessandro, and Nikki Cat. Director is Steven Soderbergh. I've never heard of it. Honestly, any listeners know what what did I say it was? The Limey. Yeah, from 1999. It's rated R, but that's coming out in 4K. Lost Highway, the Criterion Collection edition, is coming out from 1997. Also, Mortal Kombat Legends Snowblind from 2022. That's coming out in 4K. I hadn't even heard of that. Didn't know another Mortal Kombat was coming.
Either.
I think it's animated. The Score from 2001. That's coming out in 4K. To Kill a Mockingbird, the 60th anniversary edition. That's another one I might be interested in.
Yeah.
Yep. Trancers, 2-disc collector's edition from 1984. That's another one. I remember seeing that movie because I know I've seen it. I don't remember it.
Yeah, I think I've seen it too, but probably in 1984. So.
Yeah, exactly. And then we get to the Universal Classics Monsters Icons of Horror Collection. So I'm pretty sure this is the one where you get all of the movies. You get, let me see, it says.
I'm actually very interested in that.
Yeah. Says, from Universal Pictures, home of the monsters since the era of the silent movies, comes a second volume of Universal Classic Monsters, Icons of Horror Collection, showcasing 4 more of the most iconic monsters of motion picture history. The Mummy, The Bride of Frankenstein, Phantom of the Opera, and Creatures from the Black Lagoon, starring Boris Karloff.
Okay.
So,
but that's not the movies you listed earlier.
So I'm guessing this must be the second edition, and we're getting the singles of the first
from the
edition.
First edition.
Yes. So
because those movies should be first edition for sure.
Yeah.
Dracula, Frankenstein.
And the Wolfman is the last one because this app goes in alphabetical, and that's the way I dropped them in here.
Oh, so I didn't even realize that. I definitely want to pick both of those up. Actually,
right?
I love those movies.
Yeah,
I remember I used to watch them with my dad. When I was a kid.
Yeah, on Saturday afternoons. Saturday on Creature Double Feature.
Double Feature.
On Channel 56.
But even late, I remember
we're going to talk about that in a little bit.
Late at night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and
cool.
There is something about that. So, yeah, if that's funny because we didn't have this segment back when the first one came out. So, that's why I didn't know about it. So, but yeah, you could probably grab the whole Classic Monsters Volume 1, get all of those movies, and then and then Volume 2 comes out on Tuesday. So there you go.
Awesome.
We just spent more of your money, John.
I know, because I'm definitely going to look for those when we're done here.
Yep. All right. That is it for this. A lot coming. 15 different movies. 15 movies coming.
Yeah.
Out, so
it's a bunch.
Pretty cool. Yeah. All right. Ready to get to real HT experiences?
Sure.
All right. Let's power up this projector here. All right. What do you have? What do you have first this week, John? Or do you want me to go first since I have a few?
So we've been
more?
watching. Well, go ahead. Fine.
This went way better in rehearsal.
Yeah.
All right. Let me. Since we were just talking about
I really only have one, so
right. And then we'll discuss. We have one to discuss. So let me get to this one since it's topical for what we were just talking about. So, War of the Worlds on Kaleidescape. And now this is the War of the Worlds from what was it, 1953?
50s, yeah.
53, I think it was, or 51, 53. So the War of the Worlds, and then they have When Worlds Collide. That box set just came out. You can still grab it on Amazon for like $30, $29.99. And I read Ralph's review on it and what he was saying about War of the Worlds. I was like, oh, and I looked it up and I have it. They had War of the Worlds available on Kaleidescape, so I grabbed it before they sold out, you know. And, but yeah.
Did you get the pre-order in?
Yeah, exactly. And it looks and sounds fantastic. Oh my God. The picture is so awesome. It's like, and I texted Ralph and I go, holy crap. I was like, this is so much better than watching it on a 19-inch television.
I was going to say the last time I saw that movie was probably on a 19 or 27-inch TV.
Exactly. I had to say, I'm like, I think he said that in his article too. And then I read Mike's article over on Michael Scott over on AV. His just came out the other day and I read his and very similar. It just looks awesome. But the sound, there's a couple of jump scenes because you're not expecting your room to get that engaged. Right. It's DTS Master Audio 5.1, but you're like all of us
Neural X, you're upmixing
with your upmixing it. But I think even at the 5.1 level, it's because it's the side engagement, and I did see Mike mention that. But I was like this, I was like, holy, like like when the battle starts towards the end of the movie, like the second half. And they start coming in and you get the weird funky noises that they called a battle back in the 50s.
Right.
It's awesome. The special effects are so much fun to watch. Like, do you remember the lasers and the people just turned red, glowed red, and then disappeared?
Yeah.
That's how they did it. And then I want to say like it in 4K with the HDR and it's just that clean image that there was no snow. John, no snow. I had great reception watching this.
Yeah, didn't have to put the tinfoil on the rabbit ears.
None of that. Yeah. It was awesome. But then like the green light, the halo of the green, the reds, it just was beautiful. I wanted to send pictures to my dad. I was like, this, honestly, sitting there watching this is like you said about the creature double feature and watching these monster movies with your father. And I am going, when my parents are going to come live with us, we're building that house, and to have that theater,
right? I
honestly can't wait to pull him, like, come on, Dad, let's go downstairs and watch stuff like this, and have him be like, because he's never really, like, I showed him my theater when I built it 20 years ago, and he just sat there and he goes,
really
does the
neato.
He's not going to come drive out here and sit down and watch a movie. He doesn't, he doesn't care about it that much. He'll watch it on TV, and he liked that. But to actually have it's going to be like in his house for all intents and purposes. So come on over, sit down.
Yeah, you just going into the room. So.
And to do this Bridge on the River Kwai, he showed me. He sat me down to watch that movie when I was a kid on a 19-inch television.
Right.
So
even going back and watching Psycho again, and some of those Universal movies.
Yeah. Oh,
would be great.
Yeah. And First Blood. And Rambo First Blood Part 2 when he took me to see that. Just all that fun stuff. But yeah, War of the Worlds, I would say I didn't grab When Worlds Collide, but if you can grab this box set, I think as an older movie, especially if you're our age, I would grab it. It's so good, and you're going to be blown away. And especially by the sound, because you're going to be like, holy crap, this is from the 50s, and it's coming in all around you, and it's like from behind you, but even the sides, you're like, just the laser noises that they made. It's so cool. And then the acting. Now let's have some fun. It's so bad. Well, it's bad. Because that's how they acted. And like, it was like stage acting. Like the camera would, and like everybody was framed perfectly. And it's almost like you could tell like the next person that was had a line. You could almost see them getting ready to say their line. And it was like, I can't believe that. What do you think is going to happen next? And then there's a pause and a person will go, well, I think we should do this.
Right.
It's like our early podcast, John.
Exactly.
It was but it was so much fun. Highly recommended, especially if you're of our age, grew up in the 70s and 80s, grew up watching these on television or older. Yeah. And you grew, maybe you're an older gentleman live. And saw this in the theater.
Right.
I
heard the radio drama.
Yeah.
That's how old I am.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right. All right. What do you have?
Well, the only thing I really have we've been watching this week is Dahmer.
Yes.
We're not finished with it, but we're on, I think we've got 3 left. It's on Netflix. It's got Dolby Vision, Dolby Atmos. Again, not your, car crashes and, gunfights and things like that. But there's some really good discrete Atmos effects, throughout the episodes that I've watched so far.
Yeah.
Some good I think the last episode I watched, which would have been 7, I think, there's a scene where they're in a nightclub, and there's some pretty good bass. There's some pretty good thump going. So it's there, but ultimately this isn't necessarily the show for to show off your theater. And it's disturbing. It's a tough watch. I'm sure it's been dramatized for for effect.
Can you dramatize Dahmer? The guy killed multiple people and ate them.
He did. But what's the frustrating part about watching this is how many times they had him in their sights and he wriggled out of it,
Yeah.
A lot less people could have been killed if, people were kind of doing their job and
that's the thing. Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen it or know the story a whole lot, and I don't want to get into too much of it, but literally he gets pulled over after his very first kill with the body in the car.
Right.
And it's he drives away. How many people could have still been alive if the police would have just done their job that night? Now people will say, they pulled him over, and I've been pulled over and the cops didn't search my car, but I wasn't drunk and swerving all over the road with a bunch of trash bags in my back seat, So,
that was that one time.
I feel like if I was in that situation, they might have at least asked me to step out of the car, So, but so many times that it's just, calls that went ignored, 911 calls that weren't responded to, and like I said, they had that guy in their sight. And, this isn't the show where we talk about the storyline of the content as much.
No.
But it is frustrating to watch, and
it's frustrating because you're using today's rationale.
Yes.
It was completely different back then. Yeah. And
even when you get pulled over, that was in the 80s. That was 40 years ago,
Right.
But still.
Yeah, there was things were done differently, and luckily we have improved since then, right? Even Meg's watching it, and even the whole topic of AIDS is a big catalyst of why he got away with what he did, because people were afraid of it. Well, he used it.
He played into that because he knew that people would kind of shy away from him, and not even want to go inside and search his apartment because they were afraid to go in.
Yeah, because that's how we felt about it back then. It was you didn't know how you got. Remember, we were kids.
Exactly. They didn't know how it was.
You didn't know how you got it. They just kept telling you. I don't. Obviously, we knew it was sexually transmitted, but at the same time, there was you could get it any other way. If you could get it just by, we weren't sure.
Right.
Nobody knew, so people were like, and so a lot plays into it. But honestly, John, I saw you put this on your notes. Jen and I are watching it in the living room, just with our sound bar, and I have rear channels for my Sonos. But to be fair to you, this is one of the things that I love having you on here for, is because you have to watch this in your living room, but your living room is your theater.
Well,
so
I can watch it in bed, but we don't watch most
I had trouble watching this while eating.
Yeah. We don't watch most things. Usually once we go to bed, I'm watching my football games. I'm watching the stuff that Lydia doesn't want to watch. So,
But yeah, it's no.
But yeah, everything
anything
I
comes
watch
up,
is basically.
yeah.
I watched like The Good Doctor up
Well,
mixed into
yeah.
Neural X. You know what I mean? So like, I get the theater experience with everything I watch.
Paging Dr. So-and-so, paging Dr. So-and-so.
Exactly.
Wow, my rear channels are alive.
Exactly. But you know what's funny is some of the things surprise you. Like I mentioned it way back to you when I first started doing that. Like AMC has great surround sound.
Yeah.
So when I watch like The Walking Dead and things like that, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
and it surprises you sometimes what shows actually have pretty good mixes in them.
Right.
You know, because you wouldn't think that.
Right.
You know, when you're watching stuff like
but
that.
That's what you're here for, John. Bring it.
That's it.
If something, seriously, if you're watching The Good Doctor and there's a big, there's a great sounding scene, let us know. I'm like, because that'd be fun. Everything's, I don't want to say downloadable, but everything's on demand now.
Oh
right?
yeah, you can.
So you could always, if you have a timestamp on a network show that we don't know because we're watching it in our living rooms, let us know. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome. So
yeah,
don't be shy.
I'm not.
You're doing great, monkey.
I'm doing the Lord's work.
Yeah. I don't know about that. All right.
But I'm dancing.
So speaking of television shows, some people watch their television shows and other people wait until, you could get it for free, or you can wait and buy it like me.
Yeah.
So Superman and Lois is available.
You had this on here.
Season 2 is on Kaleidescape in high definition.
Yeah.
In DTS 5.1. You don't get that on television.
You don't. I watch it on the CW app.
And you know what was frustrating about the CW app is it was like crappy sound. It was
crappy sound, and you had commercials that you could not work around or pay your way out of. You can't, you can't pay your way out of them.
The only thing they didn't do was strap you to your seat and put toothpicks in your eyeballs. Other than Clockwork Oranging I hated that app. Absolutely.
Now you can wait till the end of the season and the whole thing gets dropped on HBO Max, which is what I'm doing with Stargirl right now.
Okay.
Because I refuse to go to the CW and watch it. I'm just gonna wait till it's done and go there for
I didn't even check that out. I have Superman and Lois season 2. Is that on HBO Max yet? It might be by now.
It probably is.
It probably is.
I that was the last one I watched through CW, and I said never again when I got to the end of that.
It's but Superman and Lois, I didn't watch a single minute of it live, and I saw it on, and it is so good. Like I told you, I'd done The Expanse there. What was the other one? The West. What's his name?
The Epics, right? The Jesse.
No,
James.
Not Jesse James. It was
Billy the Kid.
Billy the Kid. The Kid.
Yeah. Which was awesome.
Awesome. And they but the sound is so much more enhanced than what you're getting on any stream. Definitely CW and better than HBO. And it's like, so when Superman takes off in this, there are some booms that I'm a few episodes into I don't know if you remember the season, but remember in episode 1 and he has the submarine issue and he goes under and the bass and the noise that hurts him when he's hovering above the ocean. It's just awesome. It's like a movie. It was so good. So it's, download all the episodes. And now I'm just, that's what I'm doing in the mornings now. It's
I was wondering, cause you sent me this random text this morning about Superman. And I was like, I thought that was a news story about the actor because I was like, why is this coming across now? I said, that's way out of left field.
No, you ever do that when you're watching a show or something and you go on IMDb to see their ages? And it's like, especially if you get to be our age, you start to look at older, like, how old is this guy here? All right, I look better than that. Oh, wow, he looks way better than I do.
I do it all the time. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's what I do. I'm like, all right, I look better than that. Or you look at some older movies, like a Bruce Willis movie, and be like, oh, he's the age I was then. He's what I am now. Oh, that's pretty good.
Right.
I'm doing all right. Or,
yeah.
Like, or somebody dies.
Or it's quite the opposite. You're like, Salma Hayek is 60.
Right.
And she looks 10 times better than I do.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Or somebody dies and you go, how old were they? All right. I got that many years left.
Right.
But no, in the Superman, the kids are way closer in age to like Superman. Tyler what's his name?
Hoechlin. Yeah.
He's what did I tell you? He would have been in real life.
14. Yeah, he would have been 14 and 16 when they were born.
Yeah. I was like, oh, wait, because he was born in 87.
Yeah.
And the kid playing the oldest was born in
01. Would have been 01, right?
01.
2001. Yeah.
2001. Something like, yeah. So and then the younger one was born in 2003.
Right.
And then
the math doesn't add up.
No. And I'm flipping through and they were all born in either the late 80s or early 90s. And then you get to play the woman playing Lana, 70. She was born in 75.
Yeah.
I was like, holy crap. She's only 5 years younger than she looks fantastic.
Yeah.
For that. I mean, she's playing all these younger castmates. And she was born in 75.
In 75.
Yeah. I was like, but funny. Again, it's not really home theater related, but it's what I was doing in my home theater while I'm watching the show. I was like, holy crap. But yeah. great series too. I love where they're going with it.
It was really good. It's a good season. It's the only survivor of the CW verse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
maybe
like you said,
I didn't more season.
I didn't even think of that being on HBO Max. So I would check it out. First season's there. I finished that one. But yeah, it's really, really good. So, all right, you don't have another one, right? We'll get to we'll talk about that.
Else.
The ending of Rings of Power, episode 6. Do you remember that one?
I do.
The base awesome. And the water explode. I don't know, water explosions that
doesn't. Yeah.
There was a weird sound to it, but it was incredible. It was like, and then the volcano and stuff erupted. Yeah, what an ending! What an ending to episode 6, and in your theater, absolutely amazing, awesome stuff. And then the one I talked about with Steve George, Predestination, from 2014. I bought it on Kaleidescape.
What that is.
Ethan Hawke, Sarah Nook, and Noah Taylor.
Okay.
You'll know him when you see him.
The only one I know is Ethan Hawke. I don't know those names.
Movie, John, highly recommend tracking this down, watching this movie. It was great in the theater. I had a blast with it in the theater. I got about a third of the way through it, and Joe came. He was out doing some work on his truck, and he's like, "Oh, I was going to hang out." And I go, "Let me catch you up to speed." So I caught him up to speed, and he watched the rest of it with me. And then we finished it, and we sat there for like 45 minutes talking about the movie.
Yeah.
I don't know. It didn't get great ratings. It didn't get a lot of talk. I don't know why. But Steve, as I said to him earlier, he is completely, he can recommend anything to me now. I don't care if it's a horror or not. It might be the worst movie that he's ever seen, and he's just trying to screw with me. I'll let it go because this was so much fun. And I'm like, how did you not hear about this? So I bought it, I watched it, and I was blown away. It's time travel.
Looks like I would have to rent it.
Yeah, you should try to rent it, check it out. And it's a good home theater experience. It has some fun stuff to it. But the story itself, by the end of it, you're like, your mind is bent. You're spent. It's bent. It's
spent
everything.
And bent, huh?
It's awesome. It was so much fun. Oh, I'm so excited talking about it. I forgot to pull up the graphic for it. Where is the graphic for it? I didn't even load one. Look at that. Oh well. Yeah. I knew I had one. Oh well. But anyways, Predestination. Check that out. Audio only for our podcast.
Yeah.
All right. What was the next thing? And then you wanted to talk about.
I just figured since there was a lot of chatter online about the latest episode of House of the Dragon, that we should probably mention it. Because I think we probably had different experiences also. with it because you have the Lumigen. I do not. My projector struggled a bit with
Did
this.
it? Okay,
Like,
this is going to be good.
It was a little. It was a little washed out. In the beach scenes, I had a hard time with some of the details. Now I haven't had a chance to go back and play with anything yet. Like I set my laser light level at about 6, 10 being the max.
Okay.
From everything I've read on the forums that have to do with my projector, 6 is about standard brightness. 10 would be like vivid, and I don't keep it that bright.
But if you mess with that, that's going to actually mess with your black levels as well.
Well, it will, but I don't have to
change.
Yeah, I don't have to change anything else in my settings. I can just turn the light level higher.
Do you have a chroma setting? Or gamma?
I do have a chroma setting, but I have all of that, but I don't really want to go in and mess with that too much because I'm happy with my picture overall.
Right.
And I don't want to change too much, but I do want to go back and put that scene on and mess with the light level a little bit and see if it makes any difference. But it's also a case of, I don't know if I'm missing details because I'm not seeing maybe I'm not.
You don't
missing
know
anything.
what you don't know, right? No,
maybe that's the same picture maybe that's the same picture you got. I don't know because if we weren't looking at things side by side,
I don't know what you're missing. But
right.
I had the benefit of watching this after seeing what people were talking about. All I saw was beach scene, right? And that's what was on Twitter. Like, oh boy, here we go. And people, I think maybe somebody mentioned it, or I was just thinking like, oh, this has got to be it's got to be like The Long Night, right?
Right.
The same type.
It's very, very dark.
But it's not as dark as The Long Night. The Long Night is darker. This one here, and I didn't know. Like as the episode is playing out, you get to a night scene. They're still at the castle, right? And then I was like, oh, maybe this is what they're talking about. And because the sun's setting, it's a gradual progression of the sun setting, and then you're at nighttime, and then you end up, like you said, then Joe and I were watching it together, and we were like, I see what people could be talking about, but it looked fantastic. It absolutely did. The highlights on them, and what I noticed, like when the two characters, we won't spoil anything, the two characters are talking to each other. I was explaining to Joe, I'm like, what they do here is they actually shoot this in the daytime.
Right. It's day for night or day.
Right. And then they light it differently. So when you're shooting in the daytime, I'm sure you've seen the behind the scenes stuff where they'll have the mirrors and they'll be reflecting light at the actors. Well, in this one, the light that's being projected onto the actors is actually coming from the back of them. So you're actually seeing their face. The camera's catching the shadowed side, and you could see the highlight, the silhouettes. But we could make out everything. Like their faces, their details, everything was great. And then you had the nice highlights of I think there was even a shot of one where they're looking up at the moon. It looked really nice. Were you able to make out, this is shortly before, and this isn't a spoiler, we all know there's dragons in the movie, in the clouds. Were you able to make out the silhouette of the dragon in the cloud? They were still at the castle, I think, and they looked up. The sun is setting or had set, and it's just clouds and moonlight.
Yeah.
You could feel it in your room. You felt like, like it went by, but it was in the clouds, and it starts at the upper right side of your screen, and you can see this silhouette. It was so subtle that Joe...
I'll have to go back and look for it. I don't remember that specifically.
But Joe was like, I don't think everybody saw that because it was so subtle, but it was there, and it's so cool. It's above the clouds, and you're just looking at the shadow. Oh, it's really nice.
Now, I'll say I don't have a fully calibrated projector. Like it's not been professionally calibrated or anything. I basically use their out-of-the-box movie mode with a couple of tweaks,
Right.
And there were scenes like the castle scene leading up to the beach where it was kind of dusk.
Yeah.
I felt like I had some pretty good detail there. And even in the dark with the again, don't want to spoil too much, but with the
characters.
dragon,
the
character
dragon,
like with the dragon. I felt like there was some pretty good detail there. I could make out the scales, the eye, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
But the specific scene on the beach. Now, I mean, again, I could see their faces and all that stuff, but then it was just kind of like their clothes were just kind of faded into the black.
See, we could see colors.
Yeah. See,
you could see and it was muted. Like one character was wearing red. The other one was wearing black, but it was like but the texture and the material was a shiny. So like I said to Joe, I go, it almost looks blue. It's reflecting the blueness out of the sky, which was really nice. But you could really make out the muted red in the other character. Yeah. And I
felt like I was missing detail there just because
it was a deep maroon. Yeah. Like if you weren't trying to pay attention, you'd be like, that just looks shadowed. But you could feel the vibrancy. And that's what I was saying to Joe. What's really cool is they're able to shoot these things. And because of HDR, you're still pulling out that vibrancy of the color that's there, but it's so darkened because it's in shadow. And it really was. It was really, really such a cool thing. And I saw one person say on social media, and because it's written, you're not sure, like, are they saying this like mean? Like, are they angry?
Right. Is it sarcastic?
Or are they saying like they're doing this to push the envelope? Because what the actual quote I'm going to say is, they said, I think they're doing this to us on purpose. And I'm like, yeah, but are they, because they had the long night and that sent the world into a tizzy. And, are they doing this to show people like there's more? When this 4K disc set comes out, this is selling that set, this scene, because we're all going to get it at home and you're going to be like, oh, all right. Yeah. Now, but I thought it looked great here. And I watched The Long Night. That was the first scene I went to when they dropped 4K with HDR on HBO Max just a few weeks ago. You go to that scene and it's like, oh, look at that. Yeah. And there is so much to this. Going back to the old set, anytime they go into the caves, you need that HDR. Right. It's like the lanterns are lit, the flames, it's dark. And this beach scene, it's gorgeous. I absolutely, I loved it.
Cause I want to go, I was watching it, doing my watch through with Lydia. And so like, I'm not going to stop and start playing with things while we're just watching the show.
Yeah.
But I do want to go back, and I didn't really have time today because we just watched it last night. But I do want to go back and mess with the brightness a little bit and see if I can get it,
Yeah, it's your contrast. Yeah, your contrast. You've got to pull up some brightness
and like I said, at some point levels. I do want to. I am going to have the projector calibrated, but I'm waiting for the Dolby Vision update first because I don't want to pay somebody to come out twice.
Right.
And have to mess with things. Even though the Dolby Vision should be a separate thing on its own because it really does its own calibration.
Well, that's it. Yeah, that's just tone mapping it to. Right. You might be all set right there for anything with Dolby Vision. That's what you'll. Well, be
yeah. When the Dolby Vision drops, I'll go back and watch that again and see. And I actually could bring it up on my TV in my bedroom, which does have Dolby Vision, and see how it goes there. Like I said, I haven't had a chance to play with it, but I saw a couple threads, like Omar started a thread on Twitter, and I've seen a bunch of other people talking about it. So I figured, we would bring it up here. And I assumed you with the Lumagen and all that stuff probably had a much better experience than most of us did. Because like I said, I know my projector struggled a bit with it. So
yeah, and even with Dolby Vision, it's the capability of the set. Like I have Dolby Vision upstairs and it didn't look good as in my theater. The TV's not as good, right? The Lumagen just basically gives me Dolby Vision, the capability of Dolby Vision on everything, whether it has Dolby Vision or not. And my projector obviously doesn't have Dolby Vision. But I would be interested to hear from some of the listeners with nice OLEDs that are like, that was odd. Like, what did you think of that
Steve,
scene?
Yeah, I'm sure Steve.
It's like, yep. Steve on his set that's calibrated, and Mike Schramm, who's got his OLED, just new OLED. Maybe he's not watching this because he's still going through his collection. But yeah, it is an amazing. I love when they do stuff like that, and it's like really put, and it sends the world into a tizzy because they're like, why do they do this? It
everybody's
ruined
talking
it
about
for
it.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, but guess what? Oh, wait. For all those people out there, like, oh, physical media isn't any better than streaming. Oh, yeah? Because, I mean, I was able to take advantage of the stream, and I know the physical media is going to be even better.
Exactly.
You know?
Which I was very excited to hear that they were going to drop this season on 4K disc. And
yeah, Jeff announced it. Well, he didn't
definitely be
announce
looking
it,
to
but
pick
he
that up.
retweeted the announcement of it shortly after we
A couple days
recorded.
ago. Yeah.
Yeah, and Jeff and I were talking about it, and I'm hoping there's no date yet, but I'm hoping that it'll be for Christmas. I'm hoping we get it before the end of the year.
Three more I think there's 3 more episodes, which puts us to basically November 1st.
Yeah.
Dropping it for Christmas would be tight, but wouldn't be unheard of.
Yeah. Yeah, a month after. You figure everybody that's going to watch it has watched it live.
Has watched it, right.
You know, and even your bingers, the people that want to wait till it's over and then binge it, that'll be done by the end of the month because you're binging it. You're going to do it in a weekend. So now you can cash in at Christmas time to get that box set, which I will grab that box set. I don't know if I'd buy they'll probably come out with a Game of Thrones box set where it's all of them again.
Right.
I'm like, I don't need that.
Well, but you've got them on Kaleidescape already, right? You're going to buy it on Kaleidescape. Oh, you don't have Game of Thrones on Kaleidescape?
No, when for what we get on Kaleidescape. Now, I'm hoping that they get Game of Thrones on Kaleidescape because they hadn't, Kaleidescape goes the way the digital market goes. Okay? Right. So when Game of Thrones was on streaming, when it was on HBO, it was in HD with Atmos.
Right.
Okay. Actually, I think it was just on HBO. It was HD. On Kaleidescape right now, Game of Thrones is only HD with Dolby Atmos. We don't have 4K. Yet. But I'm hoping that maybe because it's on HBO Max right now where they just dropped it, maybe we'll get that. They'll get the upgrade for it. If they do that, I would absolutely buy the every episode on Kaleidescape. I would absolutely I love that series. I love going through it and just bouncing around. I want that immediacy, not have to get up and put my disc in. But yeah, I'm hoping that's what happens. And maybe with, Rings of Power, we'll get, not Rings of Power, I'm sorry, House of the Dragon. We'll get that on the Kaleidescape. That would be cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, but speaking of Rings of Power, we did have that come up this week. And what do you think of that getting a physical release? I wanted to talk to you about that.
I mean, I would love to have it. I just don't know if they will do it. Amazon, I can't think of anything that they've.
Well, we came up with it.
Out. Oh, did you?
Yeah, I put it out, and I thought that they had these two.
Come out?
They came out with on Blu-ray. You can get Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan. That is available on Blu-ray. That is out, and what was the other one? Oh, I forget what it was. There were 2, but Steve had them both.
Okay.
Steve had them both. Michael Scott had them both. But they're the other big
Blu-ray.
one. They're out on Blu-ray, so there is a chance of physical release. And then Todd from AV Nirvana had a good point too. This is too big of a franchise, and there's too much money at stake to not try to cash in on every opportunity.
Because they're on the hook for $1 billion at this point.
Right.
Yeah, so they need it. Obviously anything that they can recapture.
Yes.
Would be beneficial to them.
Yeah.
So,
So
I mean, I would absolutely buy it and love to rewatch it. Now, again, I think the stream and quality is pretty good.
It is. Yeah.
It's again, it's not going to rival physical media. So
no. Yeah. So
and this goes along with, your Lord of the Rings box set, right? Like you're going to want to have all these things together. Just like you're going to want to have, if you have Game of Thrones, you're going to want to have House of the Dragon. Now, I might wait until the series is done so I can pick it all up in a box set
Yeah.
As opposed to buying it season by season. But
that's
well, you will buy the season by season and buy the box set when it comes out. So
well, I'd buy it season by season on Kaleidescape if they have it.
They've got you either way.
Yeah, exactly. You can't. But yeah, I can't remember what the other one is. I can't, and I know we were just talking about it on Twitter. It's a big one too.
One of their big. Well, I don't know
it wasn't The Expanse because I mentioned that one.
Yeah, The Expanse. I mean, Reacher, but
no, that didn't come out. Well, what it was somebody by I think it was Paramount. If they have a movie, if the movie was done by somebody else, it was. Yeah, here. Can anyone name? Let me see. Can anyone name the other? Oh, The Boys. Duh.
Oh, that's right. The Boys is out on Blu-ray.
Is out on Blu-ray.
But they're not out in 4K, which is weird.
No.
They're just out on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Now, would you buy a Blu-ray season of Rings of Power?
No. It's a side.
Because I don't know if the Blu-ray now
the audio would be better.
If it had the Dolby Atmos track, because you're still going to get the superior audio.
Yeah.
But your video experience may be the same as streaming.
Right.
So
I don't think I would.
I don't know if I would buy it.
Yeah. I don't think I would. If it was 4K, I would buy it. But the 4K streaming, it's almost a sideward step. I think a Blu-ray is a little bit better than a 4K stream.
Yeah,
but
and
it's
again,
so
the
close.
Atmos track is, and
that's going to be better.
We all know how much of the experience is based on audio more than video. So
right.
It may be worthwhile, but
but definitely 4K. If you're releasing something new now, it's got to be 4K. It's got to be.
Well, even when Jack Ryan came out, it should have been 4K. Or The Boys.
Right.
It's odd that neither one of those are in 4K.
Yeah. But so that was, what do we got? That was it. Rings of Power. We talked about that was the last one. So now we wrap up with Deadpool, our feature presentation. All right, why don't you start us off?
Okay. Well, I watched Deadpool on 4K disc with Atmos. Assuming you watched it on Kaleidescape.
Yes, I did.
Hadn't watched this in a while. This is, again, one of those movies that we don't have to break down a whole lot because everybody has seen it.
No, but
I was thinking of even when I was writing some notes down, I'm like, everybody has seen this.
Right.
But I just kind of forgot. I hadn't seen it in a little while.
Yeah.
So I just forgot how good this movie is.
It is.
I mean, it is so good, so funny. All the fourth wall stuff. Is great. Even
fourth wall inside a fourth wall?
Yeah, even the self kind of deprecation where he talks about his Green
acting
Lantern
abilities
suit and makes fun of his Ryan Reynolds acting, so really good. But I mean, you can't start off talking about the movie without talking about the opening sequence, right? Because I mean, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
And it kind of goes in and out, right? Because the opening sequence kind of really goes on for about 40 minutes because they keep coming back to it.
Well, that's the thing. It's like I called it at 7:40, around the 7:40 mark. I didn't even know where to stamp, but the highway ambush, we call it, right? And it's just, for me, this is the first time I've watched this with, obviously, I've got the new,
Again,
amps
with the separates.
And the separates. And what did the bass in this? Now,
what did I write? Sufficiently bassy. I mean, it's just so
awesome.
Much. Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, it is amazing. It's so. I always use the word punctual because of the way when you say it, you get that p into the microphone. But it's like that's what the bass felt like, and all the gunshots throughout this entire movie. But I have a bunch of scenes. I saw you had I have
a couple. I mean, I just wrote down the opening sequence. I didn't timestamp it at all. And again, it's just the bass and it's the surround. It's the the engagement of the surround with all the bullets and
the music, because the
and the music.
soundtrack to
You
this
got,
and the score,
Juice Newton or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Angel of the Morning.
Yeah, and you're singing it. I was walking through the house later singing it, and I'm like, Jen's like, "Would you shut up?"
Yeah, would you stop?
So yeah, we had the highway ambush, which is absolutely, like you said, it's demo material. I would say this entire disc is demo material.
Well, it is. There's a lot
all the way through it, but I've got a bunch of scenes here. Let me know if I jump past anything what you're saying. But I had it 13 minutes and 5 seconds. So it's right after he kills. Remember, he had to count down. He had 12 bullets.
Yep.
Okay. All right, everybody. Spoilers. If you haven't seen Deadpool yet,
if you haven't seen Deadpool from.
By the way,
8 years ago.
Yeah, we didn't even mention like this. Our motivation for this is they've announced Deadpool 3,
right,
in the most fantastic way, right, with Ryan Reynolds and like he's like, hey, he's like, you want to do another movie? Want to play Wolverine again? Like, and he just walks. Yeah. Okay, Ryan.
Walks upstairs or
Hugh Jackman walking by. Yeah. And then did you see the next day they came out with the other YouTube video where they
and they're playing what was it? Well, I forget the song they played over their talking, but
what about what was the song that they did? And it's like Whitney Houston, I Will Always Love Hugh.
Yeah.
And you cannot hear that now and not say Hugh. Right. It's like everything is I will always love you. It's like that's
going to be so good because the two of them together are great. You know.
Yes.
Everything they do. I mean, they've had this kind of mock Twitter beef for years.
Yeah.
And it's just so funny. Following both of them. So
kind of like we have the mock Twitter together. Friendship. Right. We're the exact opposite. Yeah. You and I. It's like behind the scenes we hate each other. They're the exact opposite.
Right.
But yeah, it was that I will always love you. It's so cool.
Yeah. Awesome.
But anyways, so this is at 13:05. I called it the bell, and it's after he counts down. He kills the last 3 guys with 1 bullet. Like I said, spoilers the rest of the way. If you haven't seen this, I mean, guess what? It's you're too late.
Yeah.
But he kills the last 3 guys, and right after he does, a bell goes bing. Like he hit his mark or whatever, but it rings like out behind you. So you hear it and then it resonates out, but it comes from behind you. And then he looks at the camera. He's like, yeah, I'm touching myself tonight. So funny. Then I think after that, the next one, and this is where you get to this scene takes forever because it's at 39 minutes and 20 seconds. He's still on the bridge. But now he's
back to the bridge.
Right. We're still on the bridge. And now he's talking to Colossus. And he's like, cup shot. And you get that really great, like you can feel the bass, but then it goes boom, again, ringing out. Right. And, he eventually cutting off his hand in more graphic detail than I ever remember after that. Because he's being led away. And the sound of him sawing off. And you're like, oh. So graphic.
Pretty realistic.
Yeah. So graphic. At 52 minutes and 45 seconds, I gave it 3 boxes of popcorn.
I think this is right where I have 53 minutes.
Okay.
So
yeah.
It's just explode the tank.
The match goes basically. Boom, and what he's in, he lights off the match, and the bass, it's so deep, it's so crisp.
Yeah. It hits the whole room.
Oh, yeah. And then the fight afterwards. That him and Francis have, and the big, I'm sorry if I spoiled the name for you, but Ajax.
What's my name?
What's my name? But the fight, each punch, you could feel each punch. The picture, way better.
It looked awesome.
It looked incredible. You could see way more Ryan Reynolds than you wanted to.
Yeah.
All of that is there, but the deep reds, the bright yellows, the contrast, the black levels, so good. Like I said, the punches, the high ringing noises, the higher end noises just throughout your room. Really, really good. So I gave it 3 boxes of popcorn. 1 hour, 5 minutes and 5 seconds. Knock at the door. There's deep bass noise on the left side of your room. And it's muffled, but it's like when you knock on a door, it's like you knocked with the side of your fist. So you get a boom, 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 not a knock, knock, knock. But it was perfectly placed. Like somebody was knocking. I happened to have a door on the left side of my theater right there. So I was like,
over.
hello, come on in. And then the camera angle changes. And now that same door is on the right side and they knock again, but it comes from that side. Right. So it's a perfect, like, just because they moved the camera, and I'll go back to Goonies, they didn't pay attention to that detail. So I appreciate it when they do, because in Goonies, it was rain dripping off the gutter, and it was on the right side of your room. And then the camera switched angle, and now you're looking out from where that gutter is, and it should be on the left, still draining on the right.
Right.
Not good. 1 hour, 14 minutes even. 3 boxes of popcorn for Back Alley. And Wade goes into the alley. Thunder overhead. Vanessa's been taken, and he comes out there, but the thunder overhead, very deep, very distinct. Sound of the rain all around you. And then as he picks up her, what was it, like a change purse or something? Like she had left something behind, the clue left behind to know that she's been taken. There's a deep, ominous bass that rumbles up through the floor as he picks it up. It's like, it's part of the score, but back it up and listen to that thunder overhead. And so now you're hearing bass, which is supposed to be not directional, but it's so cool how they do this. It's like you're hearing the thunder over your head, but then when he picks that up, it came up through my seat. And it was just like, you're like, and I went back and forth a couple times because I'm like, over my head, under my head, over my head. Awesome. It was really cool. And that's why I gave it 3 boxes.
Cool.
1 hour. You got anything in between?
I've got 121.48.
What's my name?
What you've got next.
I got 121.25.
Okay. Superhero landing.
That's 121.40. So this is 3 boxes of popcorn, came before that. So it's right after a great bass note in the score, and Francis yells Wade Wilson from the top of the decommissioned helicarrier, right?
Right.
And then the sound comes from the back top of the room where Deadpool's looking up to. So Deadpool's looking up, and Francis yells, "Hey, Wade Wilson," or he just yells, "Wade Wilson." But it comes from the rear of your room. But then again, the camera shifts and to where you're looking at Francis, and he says, "What's my name?" And like I said, these 2 things are like instantaneous. Wade Wilson, back of the room, camera shifts to now you're looking dead on at him, and you see him, and the sound comes directly from him at the front of your room. It's really, really cool. And that it's little thing, but it's really cool how it comes from the back of the room, but how they position that perfectly, really, that's what I think for people like, even not people like us, but people that are just in a theater and you're enjoying this, it's part of that envelopment. They don't understand what's going on. They just know like, oh yeah, what's he looking at up there? Oh, it's past me. It's something behind me. Sounded like it. Boom. Now it's right in front of you. So cool. So cool. But then you jump right to not jump, but you lead right into that superhero landing that you had.
Yeah.
And I gave it a box
again,
of
it's
popcorn.
just the bass thump when she hits the ground. It's just very punchy.
And you know what's funny? That's the origin. We'd never heard of superhero landing until Deadpool.
Until that.
We just always knew they landed that way.
Right, because they always do it.
Right. But now they used it in Black Widow. And she was, her sister was like, here we go. You're a poser. And it's like, you're doing, there you go, the superhero landing. And what was great was after she called her that, then Natasha's like, every time she landed, she was like, I do that. But that was the very first time. And I remember seeing that in the theater and being like, superhero landing. And you didn't.
And then you see it.
You see it and you're like, he's right. That's how they land. And you're like, oh, so bad on your knees.
Yeah.
It was so good. But yeah, the bass in that, it was perfect. And then after that, it's just a battle.
Right.
And did you see
the the punches. I don't see your notes on this at all. I don't know where they are.
I didn't share them with you. I'm sorry.
No.
Yeah, I didn't share them with you. They're on a different page. But did you notice the I in France? Because he spelt out his name with the people, with the characters. Yeah. Did you notice the I in Francis?
It has the head for the.
It's a dotted I, so it's
for the dot. Yeah.
But the body, he's mooning him. It's a guy that's crumpled up.
I didn't notice that.
It's a dead guy with no head, but he's still he's crumpled up, but his pants are pulled down, so his ass is hanging out.
Oh, I didn't even catch that.
Yeah. It's pretty funny. It's really, not only is it a guy with no head and the head separated to dot the eye, but he took the time to pull the guy's pants down to moon him.
That's awesome.
Pretty funny. And the other thing I notice is the glass on Vanessa's container when she's, how they put her in one and they take the air out of it. But when Francis is doing his little monologue on what he's going to do to her and pull the air out and make her look like him, the blue hue that's on the glass and then the chrome on everything, it looked so nice. Most realistic I've ever seen it. And I haven't seen this probably in a year since I got the Lumigen and now I have, the Marantz. It's it looks so nice. 1 hour, 31 minutes, 30 seconds, the tipping of the helicarrier
I had the same,
at 3 boxes of popcorn. It's it's a demo scene, absolute demo scene. Turn this on, turn it up to put this on, turn it up to reference, and it is awesome. And I don't think we've mentioned it in this podcast, but it bears repeating. Some people don't realize that's a helicarrier from the MCU, and a lot of people. I remember when the movie came out, people were like, "Oh yeah, I didn't even notice that." It's a decommissioned helicarrier. It's just sitting there, and then they destroy it. So this movie was already part of the MCU, which I thought was really cool for them to incorporate that part. 1 hour, 34 minutes, 50 seconds. This is my last one. Colossus tries to tell Wade / Deadpool. He tries to talk him out of shooting Francis in the face.
Right.
And that ends.
4 or 5 moments.
4 or 5 opportunities to be a hero moments. Right. Yeah. But the speech, he starts off at the left and he's walking towards you. And then as he gets to the screen and he moves to the front, the speech pans perfectly, stays with him, starts off screen to the left, comes into the screen, and then moves to the center as he walks by. And it's just, I gave it 2 boxes of popcorn because I love my pans. So, but yeah, that was all I had. But I called that one a colossal pan. See what I did there? That's a colossal pun. Huh?
Yeah. Oh, look at you.
Yeah, I've been working on that pun and pan all week.
How long did that take you?
I literally just came up with it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. What made me, I looked down and I went, I haven't said colossal pan yet. And I wanted to get that in. Because that one I did. I was like, hey, this is a good one.
I workshopped that one.
I've been workshopping that one for a little while.
Yeah.
So if you haven't picked up Deadpool yet in 4K, I don't know what you're doing listening to this podcast.
Yeah, well, like you said, it's a reference disc almost all the way through.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really good.
You have your calendar girl montage.
Yeah, well, we didn't even talk about Morena Backer in 4K. So
yeah, her tattoos
in 123 inches. So
we still talking about your screen size?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Oh, that's the big fun that we can have. Yeah. She looked great. Always does. She was great in Gotham too.
Gotham and V.
I didn't see V.
You didn't watch V?
No,
yeah,
I
she
didn't
was
watch V.
The bad guy in V.
Oh, was she?
That was the first time I had ever seen her, actually. That's the first time I ever remember.
What was the other one that we watched that she was just in? I forget the name of it.
Endgame.
Endgame. Yeah, the TV show Endgame.
She was good in that, and she was also in that one on Showtime with Damian Lewis. I can't remember what it's called, but she was there. She played on that as his wife.
Yeah.
Home
Home
it's gonna
on
kill
the
me.
range.
It's gonna kill me. I have to look it up.
All right, you look that up. We'll wrap things up. That should just about do it, John. We've been recording for almost 3 hours now, when you include the green room time. So, for anybody not in the green room, get in the green room. There's a lot of good content going there that's not going anywhere else. I don't know if it's good. Yeah.
It's just content.
It's just content. There's a lot of content going there.
Yeah.
You get the podcast early and you get the behind the scenes. I won't even say what that includes. All right. Homeland. That was
which was a great show, actually.
That was the Showtime show, wasn't it?
Yeah, on Showtime.
Yeah.
With I just had it up, but it has the girl too.
The girl. Well, that's good. You've got the gender down.
The girl.
Can't remember, but
shoot.
All
Claire
right.
Danes.
Claire Danes. Yep.
Yeah.
The blonde.
Yeah, the blonde. That girl.
We're so good. So accurate. All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching, listening, participating, everything that goes on. If you're not part of the green room, you can get to be part of the green room by either coming on the show. You can either pay to be on the show, be in the green room, or you can work for it. So
exactly.
Come on the show, talk home theater. That's all you got to do. And you can get into the green room, or you can buy a $10 box of popcorn or support on Patreon. Any of those ways you can find in the show notes.
And it's a lot of fun. It's a great place to hang out.
It is. It is. John's even hanging out there. He's more active there than he is on Twitter.
I know I am.
So it's an intimate group, having a good time, having a lot of fun. Thank you to everybody. Thanks to Steve for chiming in again. We went across the pond every week. It's turning into, we tried to keep it to 10 minutes, but you know how that goes.
I don't know why you even bother.
I don't. Last week we had to cut it short, and that was 40 minutes.
I know.
So, what are you going to do? All right. That's it for this week. We'll see you next week. I don't know what we're doing, but something will inspire us, and we'll have another fun time. Thanks, everybody. Yep. John, what do they got to do?
Go push play.
Is right. Hey, Fred.
This has been a Hey Fred production with theme music by Jeff Bernhardt and Throne Vault Productions.